I've been talking with no. Did you guys hear anything I said? Okay, so let me do that all over again. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday to everybody. Thank you for being here. If you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up. Tag anybody, share this discussion with somebody who you think may find it interesting. Also, shout out to Game Dreamer 58 for becoming a new channel member. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you guys here. Thanks for stopping by. So I'm excited today about today's discussion. Please don't. Does it sound good? I'll keep seeing no sound. I see on my. Let me know if the sound is good. Can you guys hear me better now? Sorry about that. Like I said, it's not a good stream without a little bit of struggle. So here we are starting off. Are we good? Let me know if we're good. Okay, so I'm going to keep on talking, but I'm excited about today's live, can you still can't hear me? I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Are we, okay, it's good now. Okay. I'm excited about today's discussion anyways, third time around, and the special guest. So we are going to have, I'm Courtney Michelle, Omowale, Africa. I know Oshay Duke Jackson said he was having some, challenges with the internet, so we'll see if he can join. But either way, I'm excited about today's discussion. We are going to be discussing Black Sista Gurl Nationalism. So, oh, it looks like we have Oshay in the building. Hey, power has recently come back. I will try to log in from my PC in a few minutes. Shout out to Oshay. All right. So just to get right into it, I'm going to bring on the special guest and we will go from there. Hello.
Hi.
Hola. What up, Court?
Hey, Omowale.
So you got your vacation days in?
Are you guys awake now? I know you said that music was putting me on sleep.
My wife brought me some coffee, so I'm good.
I always try to do that, especially for those topics that are charged. So I'm like, okay, let me have like a calming ambiance so people come in here chill, relaxed, not, fired up. So I'm glad. Mission accomplished here. Well, anyways, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me. I always appreciate talking to you guys, hearing your perspective on these topics. And I thought this was important to address because many of you guys know it's Black History Month. In the spirit of all things Black history, in the spirit of just our culture, I thought it would be good to touch upon just different things that I continue to, run into just as a female content creator. So again, I appreciate you guys for being here. I appreciate you sharing your perspective, and I'm excited to hear what y'all got to say.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So would you want to introduce yourself real quick before we get into things? I'm Courtney Michelle. I'll start with you.
Oh, well, hello everyone. My name is Courtney, i.e. I am Courtney Michelle. I have my own shows, doing pretty decent, really excited, and I'm excited to be on here with some of my favorite content creators. So yay, I'm excited. Thanks.
All right. My name is Brother Omowale. I am Courtney Michelle's assistant.
Basically,
I happen to have a channel as well, the Omowale Africa YouTube channel, so you can check me out.
Yeah, and it's dope.
Awesome. So we'll just get right into today's topic. I'm gonna start with you, Omowale Africa. So, in your opinion, do Black men only prefer women with Eurocentric features?
I don't think that is the case. I feel like when you live in the Western world, the institutions in society pretty much socialize all of us to prefer Eurocentric features, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that because of that, I think that bias definitely impacts the desires that Black people have in terms of like what we find attractive, right? So I think it falls on both sides of the board, both Black men and Black women, but I don't think that we only prefer women with Eurocentric features, but I do understand that in the Western world, Afrocentric or African features are pretty much, demonized, right? We know historically within our culture, if you're white, just right, brown stick around, Black get back, you know what I mean? So those things are in the culture for a reason. So we can't deny that, because to deny that would be to deny our reality.
Fair point. Courtney Michelle, what do you think? In your opinion, do Black men only prefer Black women with Eurocentric features?
Oh, no, I definitely don't think that. I think it's quite the opposite. I think when we're talking about Black men, I think they love the essence of what the Black woman is. So as far as Eurocentric features, no, I don't think so. I think majority of Black men want their Black woman natural and looking like a Black woman. So I don't think so at all.
Absolutely. I have to say that I agree there. It's funny because sometimes it's common to throw around these terms, Eurocentric features. I've heard the term West African features, and it's almost as if there's this like 19th century idea of what it means to be a Black person, right? Or what it means like there's only one kind of feature that encompasses what it means to be a Black person. It's like Africa has I think the most diverse genetic makeup out there. You see dark skin, you see light skin, people with really, really wide noses, people with more petite noses. You see all kinds of variations. And so I think sometimes I've seen that term used to almost demonize even women of color, Black women who may have finer features, however you want to put it, or delicate features, and be like, oh, well, she's Black, but she has more Eurocentric features. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Africa is super diverse. So just because there's a certain nose shape or there's a certain this or that does not necessarily mean that she's trying to look white, So.
But we know what we mean when we say Eurocentric features, though, right?
Yeah, can we expound on that? Because I've been accused of trying to have Eurocentric-esque not features, but I color my hair in the blonde, and you must want to be a white woman because you color your hair blonde and things, or you straighten your hair. Well, that's not your natural texture. You straighten it. So, yeah, I would like to expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I break this down a little bit in my Black Beauty Standards video, where basically I talk about, okay, what's the Black Beauty Standard? So there's a few basic general things that across all many African cultures were seen as beautiful, right? Talk about what would be considered the Nubian nose, clear skin, braids. Like that was a really popular thing. Women having elaborate braided hairstyles, those were kind of considered like beauty. So there's like a few, I think, traditionally West African or just West African beauty traditions that we see even being maintained today in the US. But I will say the way that I have seen it used negatively, if I'm just being honest, and I can only speak for the women of what I've seen in the different digital space, but I've seen it used to attack sometimes are lighter skinned women who maybe have certain hair textures unnaturally, women who maybe have certain features. Like I've seen Black women kind of throw it around each other. If you see
but
featurism, texturism battle, I don't know how familiar you are with that, but you have like now the dark skin versus the brown skin privilege versus light skin. Like it can get really deep. And so I don't pretend to be an expert on it, but I feel like the way I've seen it used, it shifts and it varies based upon the goal. And like I said, again, I see it used sometimes as a way to create a divide within even the Black community, as if there's only one type of feature, as if Black people can only have a nose that has to be, I don't know, 4 centimeter wide or 4 centimeters wide or larger. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not like that. We are a very diverse people, even in Africa. So I hope I'm making sense when I'm explaining that. Okay.
Yeah. So. Omowale, you had something to say? Because I want to.
Yeah, I mean, because I just don't. I want us to be able to have an honest conversation as well, right? Yeah, so I just think that within our culture, within Western culture, hair, nose, skin pigmentation, your lips, even your shape, right? Yeah. There is a standard, right? And because we understand that concepts of beauty, attractiveness, desirability are socially created, right? We're socialized to desire the things that we desire. So within that regard, within a white supremacist society, whiter or lighter skin is going to come with a certain level of benefit, especially when you've been socialized to not find darker skin attractive, right? There's a Malcolm X and his either Ballad or the Bullet or Message to the Grassroots is the famous quote where he says, who taught you to hate your skin? Who taught you to hate your hair? Who taught you to hate your nose? Right. So these are real things within our culture. There's a reason why within hip hop culture, the concept of a red bone is celebrated.
Yeah.
Because our preferences are definitely impacted by the macro or by the social environment. So we can't deny that. My only argument is that both Black men and Black women are impacted by those social norms.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree that Black men and Black women are impacted by colorism, right? By Eurocentric features. I remember growing up, the big thing is, having kind of like the ethnically ambiguous or the mixed guy, right? Who could have maybe brown eyes or good hair, all those kind of different things. Like that was it. Like you didn't want to just be a Black person. Like you wanted to be mixed with something. Like that was big. So I don't pretend like it's just women who are experiencing this or men just experiences like this. To your point, is very much a result, I think, of what's happening in this culture. But the way I've seen it used sometimes, I think, I don't want to say it can be overused, but I think sometimes arguments can become disingenuous when it's used to start to attack people within your own ethnic group, or sometimes when it's used to overlook the fact like that. So like, for example, a woman may argue, oh, men don't want me or black men don't want me because I'm black. I have, West African features. I've heard that. And they don't want women with that West African features. And it's like, in reality, no, maybe you have a bad attitude, or maybe you don't know how to talk to men. So that's what I'm talking about. And me, obviously, being in a female space and talking to women, these are the kinds of different conversations that I'm having. It's obviously going to be different with the men. They're going to have different challenges. But it's not that I want to overlook that it happens, but it's like, I think there needs to be a clear line of, okay, this really is happening versus now you're using this just as an excuse.
But just try not to negate some of the arguments around colorism, because I just don't want to deny the fact that within our culture, there is an element of men that will say they don't find women attractive who are, darker than a certain, pigmentation, right? If your skin is, too dark, they're not going to find you attractive. And at the same time, a lot of these conversations, you have to understand that they are rooted in trauma. They're rooted in people's pain, right? I grew up in a community that was 99.9% black. And I recall lots of black girls saying that they wanted to either get with a white Hispanic or a white person because they wanted their child to have good hair. Right. So that's an impact, right, of us aspiring to have those Eurocentric features because we find them desirable. Right. When you look at I forget who did the doll test, but that's a very real thing. Right. Those children were not taught directly to not find dark skin or African features unattractive, but the society, right, you put them all in the room and they're all going to say that they find the white doll more attractive, right? So we can't deny that the socialization factor in it, because that's a very real thing. That's the only point that I want to make.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you there. I don't think anyone here is like, we want to deny that this happens. I think where the line is blurred is, okay, how, like, where is this applied? You know what I mean? I think it can be a very blurry line. And not only how does this apply to us, how does it apply to other person? And then where do we get into, no, this is a systematic thing, or this is a socialization thing, versus now this is being used as a cover up for other. I can't say I have the answer to that, but like I said, I know it's something that affects men and women differently, I think, to a certain extent, but we're both impacted by it.
Yeah, and I would like to see if with the doll test that was done, what was that, back maybe in the 70s and the 80s?
It was conducted again recently as well.
Was it the same outcome?
Yeah.
As far as the exact same?
Yeah. The preference is still there.
The preference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, it is a real thing for sure. I don't think, like I said, anybody, at least I don't deny it. Again, I think just where it can get tricky is it can get tricky to have a very clear line to define what is this, what does this clearly look like? How does this exactly impact the men and women when it comes to dating? I think that's where it can get really, muddled. Just my opinion. Mm-hmm. Just my opinion. But if you guys are on here, please get those likes up. Also, shout out to all the support. Shout out to Mosaic. I see me, my mother, and daughter just discussed this on my show last Saturday. Shout out to Mosaic. I see Chief Roga thank you for the 20 on the super chat. Much appreciated. Also, shout out to Hakeem for the 10 on the super chat. I'm trying to make sure I get to everybody here. I want to be mindful of time. So, all right. So moving on to the next question, because like I said, some of these topics, I know they're not easy yes or no. They're not easy yes or no answers, I think, as Omowale, you've alluded to. They're just not. It would be easy for it to do so, but that's just not true. So I will ask you, and this kind of feeds back into what you were just saying earlier. So in your opinion, Courtney, mm-hmm. Michelle, are Black men or Black women the most colorist, in your opinion?
I don't see it as one is more than the other. Mm-hmm. I think colorism exists. I think light privilege exists. And I think it's just manifested in different ways in women and men. I think in men, it's manifested as far as with dating, the preference. Mm-hmm. I'd prefer someone lighter skin or darker skin, which is still an attribute of being a colorist, because it's just having a favoritism towards a shade, lighter skin or darker skin. I think with women, it manifests amongst women more so where, you know, they see the privilege, and then privilege kind of maybe has a ill taste in one's mouth. I don't want to say it's not jealousy, but sometimes I do see resentment. So I think the manifestation is different, but I don't think one is bigger than the other. I think it exists, but the manifestation of it in both in genders is different.
Okay. So yeah, that makes total sense. Omowale, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Court. Like, I don't think that one of us are more colorist than the other. However, I think that the impacts are different. I think that internally within group, dark-skinned Black women are probably hurt more by colorism, but externally, I think that dark-skinned Black men are probably hurt more by colorism. Because if we think about like the attitudes that come with it, like for an example, right, as a man within the group, right, if you know, there's a reason why we tell people like stop that light skin stuff. Like you asking you if we say it to a man, you acting real light skin, it means like it means like you're acting like soft, you're acting feminine, right? So that's an attitude that we've picked up. It's a value that we've imposed on skin tone, even within the group. And the reason why that is because dark skin is perceived as being more masculine, more strong. And that's a viewpoint not just within the group, it's also a viewpoint outside of the group.
Yeah.
But the reason why it impacts us differently is because if dark skin is seen as more masculine, then a dark skinned woman is going to be seen as more masculine than a light skinned woman. But also a dark skinned man is going to be perceived as more threatening. So when you look at like the larger society, if I'm a darker man walking down the street, there are going to be more people, you know, unless I'm like the grooving gorilla dude who's like dancing everywhere like Terry Crews and like making, you know, kind of like myself and making myself appear soft. If I don't make myself appear like friendly and pettable and docile, then most people are going to be like, you know, am I safe with this person just because of the values that we apply to dark and or to light skin, right? So I just think that Black women are probably impacted more negatively within group, but from outside, externally, I think that Black men may be impacted a bit more negatively because of dark skin.
And let me I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. While you're saying maybe from a socially being that since women are more judged by how they look, socially within the Black community, you feel like Black women are impacted more, but as far as institutionally, maybe the way the laws are impacted, being that men are seen as a threat, you think Black men are affected more institutionally or darker?
Yeah. Exactly, because within the group, like the pain of rejection is real. Like if you feel like, man, like first of all, I might not even find myself desirable because of my dark skin or because of my hair texture. But if that is reaffirmed by everybody else in my group who, based upon their behavior towards me, they're also letting me know that they don't find me attractive either. Like that's a real pain to, you know, to walk around with. And I think that for a very long time, I've talked about this before, that pain was shared within our group amongst dark-skinned men and dark-skinned Black women. But I think that when Mandingo was released in 1975 and dark-skinned Black men became like a sex symbol for white women, I think that their attractiveness kind of like changed in the eyes of society. So once white women started to find dark-skinned Black men more attractive, I think then Black women started to say, okay, well, kind of like, you know, I'll Be Sure's out and Denzel's in, you know, Wesley Snipes is in now. So the light-skinned dudes kind of like took the back seat, whereas though they were once in the front seat, and the dark-skinned dudes came to the front because of the societal changes.
Let me ask a question, because when you mentioned Terry Crews, it made me kind of think of something. So I totally agree that I think when we talk about darker skinned Black women or Black men, it's seen more masculine. But when you're talking about a darker skinned woman and the attribute of being more masculine, I think a lot of times a woman that doesn't want to be perceived as masculine is going to be a little bit more extra to be feminine. And I think that when the Terry Crews, you know, how he always dancing around, trying to make maybe white people feel more comfortable because he is a big Black man. So in order for him to be not perceived as such a strong masculine man, then he kind of dummies down and acts more effeminate. So do you see that, or do you think that's a thing where, okay, I'm darker as a Black woman, So I got to put on an extra attribute of being feminine, even though I'm not masculine, but I got to go a little bit overboard for that perception because of that stereotype.
Absolutely. And I think that there are content creators who exist in these spaces. Like there's a sister by the name of Chrissy. She's like a dark-skinned woman. I think that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
So forgive me if I'm butchering her name.
You're
but
talking about the who she promotes. I think it's corrective promotion, Chrissy, and she's
she's like a dark-skinned woman advocate. So it's all about how to be more feminine, right? Because at the end of the day, when society first sees you, your dark skin is what they're going to see before you even get to show them your feminine side or how well you speak or how ladylike you can be, right? Those are all behaviors. But yeah, I do think that dark-skinned women have to do more to kind of like offset the preconceived notion. Whereas the light-skinned women, you know, they can, if they choose to, they can play into like the exotic, I'm more fair, I'm more, you know, desirable. They call it pretty privilege, whatever it is. But I'm just saying, like that's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, I see that.
If you were on here, please get those likes up. Get those likes up. Yeah, you know, I think again, it would be so easy to just kind of have simple answer for these questions, but the reality is it is a little bit more complicated than sometimes people want to make it. And again, like I said before, where is that clear dividing line of like, no, this is what's happening, or no, you're trying to make an excuse, or something else. You know what I mean? I could even say in my life, having two sisters, we're all different complexions. We're all different skin tones. We all have different hair textures. And my mother is even speak to the fact that like the way that we've all been treated, she's observed over the years the way that we've all been treated. It's been different. It's been different. And you know, it's sad to say that, but like I know my darker skinned sister. I mean, I don't like by any means, but I have one who's darker, and she has like you look at her and they may be like, oh, this is a very, very, very ethnic woman. She's treated differently than my lighter skinned sister. Like it's just interesting to see how those dynamics play out. And oftentimes, sometimes it's the microaggressions that can go over your head, or that you can maybe learn to overlook if you're not aware, you don't want to be aware. But like I said, I think that's really, really interesting. Mm-hmm. So also special shout out to those on the super chat. Again, a shout out to Chief Rocco for the 50 on the super chat. I see I'm Gen X born and raised in the South. All I know is growing up, sisters preferred guys who resembled I'll Be Sure, LL Cool J, Prince, Michael Jackson, El DeBarge, Ralph, et cetera, et cetera. Also, they would say openly that they didn't want dark kids. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, you know, prove both your point that this is.
But I was gonna say there's definitely the swap. Because I remember Immature, everybody wanted all my sisters and them had Marcus on their wall. I don't know if I'm aging myself with Immature.
I used to love some Marcus Houston, baby.
To your point, there was a time when it shifted from light skin to dark skin. Like I remember it's funny, I remember as a kid having crushes on lighter skinned boys. Then when I got older, it's like it was dark skin. I married a dark skinned man. Like, and it's not that like, I mean, I just think all shades of black I celebrate, right? But yeah, you're right. I never really thought about it, but like those things are so subtle. That's the crazy thing about it. Hey, Oshay.
Daddy Oshay in the building.
My brother. What up, boo?
Oshay.
Now he want to be light skinned. Okay.
Oh man, I appreciate you joining us. I know it's the internet can be a little bit of a situation out there, but all good. So I you know what, Oshay, since you just joined, I'm gonna leave this question up to you, or start this question with you. In your opinion, why do Black women claim to be pro-Black while wearing weaves from other races? Nope. If he's there with us.
I think he might be struggle streaming.
Okay. Well, when the struggle stops, Omowale, I'll start with you. I'll start this question with you.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. He's back.
He's back. Can you hear me? You there?
Well, you mute.
Is he mute? Let me see. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, well, while he's getting set up, Omowale, do you want to speak on that?
What was the question again?
Okay, so in your opinion, why Why do Black women claim to be pro-Black while wearing weaves from other races? Again, this is general. I'm not saying this is all Black women, but
yeah.
you get the general.
I kind of like stay away from like weave like type
Weave
conversations. Like I feel like just for me personally, I'm someone who's very serious about like the conditions in our community. And when I look at the conditions for me, like weave is very, 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 very low on the totem pole. But then also pro-Blackness, in my opinion, is a bag of confusion. It means everything and nothing at the same time. So I've heard all types of people say that they're pro-Black and then hold viewpoints that are completely anti-Black. So yeah. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I might have to leave that to my sister. I am Courtney Michelle.
Courtney Michelle, what do you think? Do you have any thoughts on that? I know you mentioned that you said people would try to judge you because you have, like right now, I love your hair, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I love yours.
Thank you. But so what are your thoughts on that? Just this whole topic of being oppressed by Eurocentric beauty standards and yet wearing weaves that resemble European hair. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think one negates the other. When I think about being pro-Black, if we're going to use that term, I just think it's a Black person that's being or living a lifestyle that is wanting the social, economic growth of Black people. So that's how I look at it. But we determine it a lot of times in our society as, yeah, you want that, but how do you look? Are you over here rocking a dashiki? Oh, you have a wig on, so you're not, you're not pro-Black, which I think it's another divisive thing that we do to our people. I can want growth and I could still not want to wear a dashiki. I can wear a Tom Ford suit and still be for the betterment of my people. So, but I think we try to put a look on it. It's if I don't look like Dr. Umar Johnson, then I'm not pro-Black, which is absolutely insane. I can look how I want to look if my preference and how I prefer that's a whole nother story, but I can still be for my people. And you know what, I don't think, and even when we were talking about Black men's preference, I don't even think they necessarily have a problem if their woman wants to put in a crack here and there, for a different look. The excessiveness of it all, I think, is the problem. But
I have a problem with it.
Okay, man, maybe you do.
No, I'm just saying that's just me. I'm just saying that's it. I'm not going to get into people's weaves with my own personal preference. Right.
Yeah, most men that I know. Most men that I know.
I want my woman to have natural hair. Because I want my daughter to be able to see her mother, looking a certain way. So yeah.
But I think it's the excessiveness of it all. And for me, I think it's frustrating when we want Black women to look a one particular kind of way, where it's just like, well, damn, just because I'm a Black woman and I love being Black, I can't play with stuff. I can't play with different styles of my hair. I can't, want to have a track where my hair is a little bit longer, i.e. my braids are longer, even though it's not the natural, my natural hair. It's not my natural length, but it's fun for me being a woman. A woman, we want to be able to play with our hair and play with colors. Every other culture does. But then when Black women do it and it's a different color than black or brown, oh, you ain't pro-Black because that ain't naturally how your hair grow out your head. No, it's not. But I can't have a little fun, a little play, So every other culture has that ability. White women play with wigs. White women dye their hair blonde and they a redhead. But they're never accosted of being, oh, you don't want to be white. You want to be Puerto Rican. So I think that's a problem in our society in the Black community, where Black women cannot just be a woman. And we always have to be cognizant of every single thing. No, I am pro-Black, but I can't play with the wigs. So then they think that I want to be white. I think it's a balance.
You make some interesting points. Oshay, are you there with us? Can we hear you?
We can't
hear
you.
So I hear you talking. I think we're getting there. Is the audio okay? Because I see you talking. I think the mute button is off here. Let's see.
You might have to pop out and pop back in. See if the
okay, yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll put you backstage.
There you go.
You there? Oh, I think we're starting to hear you.
Hey, I heard you.
What up?
Man, I've been having a tough day.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I told you I was gonna come. I told you, that I was gonna possibly be here, some things. But thank you for having me. It's good to see some of my friends here. Hey, Courtney. Hey, Omowale.
What up? What up?
So it's a controversial question. I really don't want to get canceled, but and for fairness, I think it all implies on the person who's wearing that weave. What are they saying about what they expect from Black men? And I think that's the most important thing. Because if you're a woman that is going around like they say Mary J. Blige, it's my boo. I love Mary J. But you're going around with that blonde, she looking like the lion. She's looking like the lion off the Wizard of Oz sometimes. Mary J is looking a little ruthless right now. But if she's telling me, I don't want you dating a white woman, and you shouldn't be doing this, and you're going around presenting yourself like that, that's going to be a tough pill for a lot of guys to swallow. Because it's like at that point now, you are not, you're telling me not to do this, but you're complete hypocrisy. I think that's what Black men have a problem with. And it's not necessarily because we understand that women want to have variety in looks. Women like to change their styles and change their hair. And I think that we all understand that. I mean, wigs and all kind of other stuff. Not that we don't, like it or dislike it. But I think it's like if it's the blatant hypocrisy, that's going to be the issue. It's like, okay, wait a minute. You're telling us not to, go out here and date these white girls, but you're trying to emulate them for those particular women that say that. And I think that if you can stay around those arguments and you don't have those positions, then it's usually okay. But if you're that same woman that, let's say, for example, you don't want to, let's say, for example, you don't want to date a guy that has kids and you have two. That's going to be a problem. Right. So I think that's where it's going to be most of it. But for usually, pro-Black is about your efforts, more or less about, and it also, some people will argue, the hardcore guys, about your look. It's both. Don't get me wrong. For some of the hardcore B1ers, and people like me, it's about both. But I think there's some tolerance with women more so than there is with men.
I agree with that.
Okay, so all you guys would say, I guess weaves, fake hair. It's not that they're in and of themselves they are anti-Black per se. It's more about how they're used. It's more about the context. I think that's what I'm hearing you guys say.
Yeah, my perspective is there's nothing there's nothing that we do that is apolitical. But I think everything that you do is a reflective of where your political consciousness is. That's why I said, like, when people talk about pro-Black, for somebody like me, like pro-Black is kind of like meaningless because it doesn't necessarily mean, it can mean anything and everything, everything and nothing at the same time, right? So personally, if I'm looking for, a wife, I'm looking for somebody who does rock natural hair. I love women with locks, right? So I like the whole like lock movement that I see right now. I wouldn't want to have a wife who like wears weaves because, not only is her mind, but her presentation is going to raise and be the example for my daughter. But at the same time, I'm not on an anti-weave crusade. If you wouldn't have asked me this question, you wouldn't have ever heard me mention the word weave in this year 2022. You haven't ever heard me mention the word weave, but you asked the question, so I'm giving it an answer. But I like Oshay's response as well. So I think the nuance is represented on the panel.
I would agree. I will say I remember, and there's many Black women that I know that can attest to this, but I think this has more to do with the generational thing where it's like, at one time it was like it had to be straight. You go into maybe your grandparents or your great aunts or the older generation, and if they saw any edges, they saw them baby hairs out of whack, it was like, oh girl, you need to go to the hair shop. You need to get that straightened. So it was like it had to be straight, and I think that's why, for some time there was Black women that I know of. I'm not gonna say this is everybody. Black women that felt like, well, my hair is only beautiful when it is straight or when it does look more European. And I think there's some of us I've talked to that I know that I struggled to a certain point where we felt like that. And this is why I appreciate now, I think, as people are having more awareness, we're seeing more of like, a natural hair movement. There's more understanding about it. I think that's really starting to challenge those narratives. But I think for a while, weaves and pieces were less, this is my opinion, I think they were less about, oh, I just want to have fun, I just want to explore. And I think there was this sense of shame of like, it has to look straight or else I'm not going to be accepted. I know I certainly felt like that.
Both sides have flipped though, because once upon a time in the 60s and 70s, a certain aesthetic was political. Like
Yeah,
if you had locks in the 70s, I could
Mhm.
know right away that you have a certain type of consciousness. You're
Yeah.
this type of person based upon your
Mhm.
hair. But now you can see a woman with locks and she can do porn. Like so,
Yeah,
like
that's
it's
true.
like
That's true.
it doesn't mean anything at this point. You know, it's just an aesthetic.
Right.
That's true.
Right. Absolutely. Guys, if you're on here, please get those likes up. Also, shout out to Mr. Bobby Wright for the 10 on the super chat. I see, can Black men play around with other races of women like Black women play around with other races of women hair in their head? How much money a year is spent on weave that could go to Black children? Bobby, with those questions. I don't know if any of you guys want to speak to that, or we can move on to the next question. You're like, all good.
Well, the question seems.
I think you get to that in the next with your next question.
Yeah, we'll go on that.
Your next question actually dives into that.
I don't know about.
Now, okay, so let's see. Oshay, I'll start with you. So, in your opinion, are Black women responsible for the domination of Asian hair stores and beauty shops in the Black community?
Well, that's a good question because I was in London in 2019, and I saw this. I was in Edmonton. Shout out to Edmonton. I was out there hanging out, and I saw the exact same thing there, and with a Black weave store. Like I said again, it's the same thing here. Also, like in Africa, you'd be surprised. The Lebanese and the Indians that own stuff like this. I think it's a lot of women are into the businesses as far as maybe the hairstyling, of course. But I would say it's the economy that they don't really control. I don't know why they don't control it, but I would believe so that it's his fault. Just like for Black men, we consume all kind of shoes and athletic apparel. We don't own it. Rap music, we don't own it. So yeah, I think it's definitely their fault. And it's a good question. I don't know why you don't have many Black women getting into that distribution. I don't know why.
I'll answer that because it was done. So it's like 70 to 80% of these Black hair places are owned by Koreans. And the reason being because back in the 60s, 65, 66, they made it a particular law where all the hair wigs were coming out of Korea. So they monopolized the transportation, the import, the export of hair. So they made it a law, I believe, and it was like you cannot export hair out of Korea if it's natural or raw hair, meaning that you can go get hair over there. It has to be packaged. It has to be already done. As far as the wigs, as far as it's already cut and prepackaged in Korea before you're able to even supply it. And then I think in China, they blocked off hair in China over here in America. So they monopolized it. You have some people, and there's one Black hair shop here in Nashville, but they say they go through hell trying to get hair because in order to buy the hair, they said the Koreans are inflating the amount. They have to have a particular amount to buy before they even consider giving it to them in their shop. So we own a very, very small percentage because it's been monopolized, and it's been that way 40, 50 years. So they own it.
I'm gonna start.
And in order for Black folks to try to get anything else to get the hair, it's in Korea. And so it's been a struggle. I got friends that go to Atlanta on these hair shows, and they say you have no idea. It's like the mob when you're trying to get hair.
I know that.
I've heard that too. My mom's beautician had the exact same issue when I think she was trying to open. I don't know if it was a shop to share hair, and she said she would not. Whoever she was working with, it was like I think it was like an Asian distributor, and he basically was like he would not be like they were going through doing all these different things, all these high payments. They essentially just would not help her, and she's like, I just couldn't get it off the ground. So that's not the first time I've heard it. I haven't done research into it, but I know like if you go in the hood and you see the only time you see like you know what I mean, cream faces where when you go into the hair shop, it's like something ain't just something's going on there. So, Omowale, what you got?
Well, when you look at the Black community in terms of the institutions that we still control, right? You know, bars, barbershops, beauty salons, and the Black church. None of those institutions are vertically integrated. They're all at the end of the value stream, and the upstream is always controlled by other communities, other industries that we don't have control over. Now, I agree with Oshay that we could do some, collective economics and take control over those things. But when you ask the question, like, who's responsible, I would argue, like, who's creating the demand, right? Is it Black women or is it Black men who are creating the demand for the projects and for the products and the Asian hair store? And my reply would be that I think that it's Black men who are responsible in the regard that I think that we drive the demand, right? We determine what is attractive, and our women try and meet that. This is why in this social media culture right now, all of our women are trying to get like BBLs, because the BBL girls are the ones who are getting the attention, right? They're getting the responses and the feedback loop. There was actually just a really good study done. I had a brother on my channel by the name of C. Paul Grandison. He wrote the book Racial Hierarchy: The Evolutionary Origins of Race. And he talked about a study that was done down in South Africa on Zulu women. And basically, because Zulu men have their preferences for desirability are now like based on a European standard, you have like Zulu women who are now trying to meet that standard. So at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons why the women are going to get the products from the Korean store, the long weaves, the yaki nappy, all that stuff that they sell in the store, they're trying to. Courtney just made that look like
because I don't agree.
Well, I'm just saying it's my perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting you're saying that, because I know there's men out there just like, no, women want to do this, but
I think that men drive desirability in a group, and women try to meet the desired standards that men set or that men want.
Well, this is why I don't agree. And just to take it off the hair, let's look at the lashes. Mm-hmm. I have not seen none Black man, white man, Puerto Rican man that has said, I love them lashes. The longer, the better, baby. But however, that's all you see. Men have been telling women, I don't want them damn lashes. Take them lashes off. You look crazy. You look over here looking like Snuffleupagus off Sesame Street. But they continue to do it. Nicki Minaj on the Shade Room a couple days ago said, Dear Black men, we do all this for us. We're not doing it for you. We care about how we're not doing it for y'all. So when you have men that have been saying, I don't want all those weaves, you said it. I hear it all the time, but we still do it.
Let me push
so
back.
Are we doing this for men? I would say that we're doing it for ourselves. Women want to look good to try to outdo, compete with other women.
Yeah. So I got to cut out. I got to cut out at 6. So I just want to push back real quick. And I think Nicki Minaj is a good example. Mm-hmm. I don't believe Nicki for a minute when she says that we don't do this for men. We do this for ourselves. If that was the case, Nicki wouldn't have that big butt that she now regrets. She went and got that huge procedure because that is what men are desirous of. I think the issue, like when you talk about things like eyelashes and stuff like that, which is again conversations I don't necessarily get into, but who are the women who are like the apex of beauty, right? And when you look at them, they're done to the T's. Like they're made up, they have on the eyebrows, they have on the long flowing weaves, and the men are desirous of those women, of the Brittany Renners. So what happens is the women are like, well, damn, how can I look like Brittany Renner? And then you throw on them long eyebrows, and they just don't work for you because it just you ain't really got it. So that's why men are like, we don't really rock with the eyebrows. It's like, no, there's a good meme that's floating around on Twitter. It's like one is flirting and one is sexual harassment. So you have a guy on the left side who's like built, he's buff, he's attractive. Yeah. So if he says, yo, you look good, that's flirting. And is the on the other side, you have an ugly dude, big fat rolls on his neck, that's sexual harassment. So when you flip that around, if a woman has those lashes on, but she's butt ugly, it's like, nah, we don't like lashes. But if you see him on a Nicki or a chick like that you like, it's like, I'm okay with them. So I'm saying that's the hypocrisy. But I do think that it's a scientific fact that men drive desirability within a group. And the same way that men have to try to acquire the traits that women find attractive, right? So if women find security attractive, men got to go get a bag of money, because that's a representation of security. If women don't want you fat, then you got to go slim up, like whatever it is. So we both acquire the traits that the opposite sex wants because we want to reproduce ourselves. So.
Yeah. I know you gotta go, but I understand the desirability, but I think it's a difference on how we're saying what's desirable to have sex with or desirable to be with. And I think when we are these BBLs and things, the desirability, the IG is they're setting themselves up like the Jessica Rabbits, the sex kittens. So it's only sexually based when women are doing this. And I think with women, we don't seem to understand that men can look at you sexually and not want you in a relationship.
Facts.
So we're confused on that.
Facts.
We're completely confused. So these butt injections and stuff is to have a good butt for sex, but not to marry.
All right. Well, Sister Shay, Sade, I appreciate you having me on your panel today. Sister Cora, I wish I could stay. I'm pretty sure Oshay gonna hold it down for the men. Hold it. Hold it down.
Well, I appreciate you being here and enjoy your next interview.
All right, I appreciate y'all. Peace.
Okay, you take care. Real quick, I want to give a special shout out to those super chats. I see Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. I see my New York experience growing up 70s and 80s. Hair was an issue in my times. I grew up in the 80s and locks was worn by Black conscious community and Jamaicans. Today, women wear hair for self, not Black men. Low-key, I think I tend to lean a little bit more towards Courtney, because if maybe our behavior as women in general was different, then I could think, oh, we're doing it for men. But you got so many self-independent, boss babe, boss up, level up, self-love, advocates. I think at the very least, it's a little bit of both. We can argue that some women are doing it because they think it makes them be more desirable, but I think a lot of us are just trying to compete against each other.
Yeah.
And now how much, which is which more, I don't know, but I think, because it's like you have tons and tons and tons of men who are just like, you don't need to spend a couple $100 a month or week looking good. Just go to the gym and learn to do your natural hair. I think most men would agree that that's, you know what I mean? That's solid. So,
yeah, I think with Black women, we don't, the art of attracting a mate, we don't know how to do it. That's something that should have been taught by our mothers, and how to be a woman. So we think that how to attract it, we put our sexuality to the forefront. And so that's why it's, the surgeries, the butts, the titties out, the scantily dressed, because we put our sexuality there first, but then are confused when that's the only thing they want us for is sex. And I would say, like with men, I don't, for the guys that just put money first and money, but then are confused when they, are getting tricked off and women are only using them for their money. So we're not putting who we are first, and understanding that your personality, who you are, your charisma can actually attract the mate that you want, instead of using your body, using your money to attract someone trashy, I guess. So, yeah.
I agree. Oshay, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, let me kind of shake it up. I agree with everything that Courtney says, and I think that Omowale has some validity. But if we really want to be honest, I'm going to agree with Courtney more, because I'm in the Black manosphere community, so it is my position that most Black women don't even think that many Black men are worth competing for in the first place. So what is it worth me? Like, nigga, I'm gonna do whatever I want. Excuse me if I can say that. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, and if you don't like it, fuck you. That's pretty much the attitude. That's the first attitude, and the way they can justify it is that, well, these dudes ain't doing nothing no way. Now, that attitude doesn't even change until maybe it might be too late, or they feel like that preference is closed, something like that, or if they have a few children, things like that. But the reality is that Black men are not in a position to tell women. Like, for example, I was living in Europe for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you would go to the malls, you would always see these slim ladies handing out like flyers. It could be the Burger King, or it could be to a makeup store or something like that. But they always had this particular certain look. It was never anybody who looked like Lizzo. And that, what that told me was, if you are a BBW woman in our society, you are not the standard of beauty at all. Now, the reverse is true in America, whereas, and it's not just a Black American thing, but it's like, okay, this is what we look like, and this is what I like. And I still deserve, based on what I look like, a guy that is what I feel is worth my time. Look at Nicki Minaj. Look at what she said. Look who she's married to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of women, and I have friends, shout out to Antoine Wade. You just donated $50. He's a guy that makes a lot of money. He's an MBA, went to Georgia Tech. I have a lot of friends. One of my best friends went to Meharry Dental School. Shout out to Nashville.
Shout out Meharry.
Their wives don't look anything like that. The reality is that the women that say those things, they can never even get to the guys who are what you would consider in the traditional Black elite,
mm-hmm.
which, are your, Jack and Jills, or the guys whose granddad went to Harvard and all that other kind of stuff. Those elite class of Black. You're from the Bay Area, right?
I am, from the Bay Area.
Okay, so the Oakland Hills and stuff like that, Richmond Hills. So guys like that, you know what I mean? So, the Black guys who were Episcopalian, so they had money back in the day, or AME. But now the new guys who are coming up in this new generation, first generation upper class or middle class Black men, are even very wealthy. Look at even some of your best billionaires, like Robert Smith. His wife is white, but look at what she looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's proportions. So the reality is that a lot of Black women don't even think that Black men are worth competing for at all, and that you're supposed to accept it because I told you so. And so really, they're just competing against themselves. That's why you have a lot of these guys who can do very well, and you see it right now, especially amongst like the new emerging Blacks. You see it a lot in the Caribbean guys, some of the African guys. Look at who they're dating. The guys who are doing very well, that are doing really good in the country. None of them look like Nicki Minaj.
Right.
Mm.
The women look very, very normal. Like, look at your Jamaican American guys who do very well. Or look at your guys coming even from Black America that do very well. If they get married, none of their wives look or sound like Nicki Minaj or Lizzo. Their wives, look at Magic Johnson, like Cookie Johnson. Traditional looking woman, average to like B.J. Edmore called her adjustable 7. That's what you see, because guys look for, okay, like if I go to dinner with her, like, am I gonna be looking stupid? As much money as Nicki Minaj has, yeah, you would love to do an interview with her. Would you want to be? Would that be your kid's mother? Absolutely not. You'd be embarrassed. Could you bring her home to your mom or to your church? You worked hard to go to medical school or law school or to be a millionaire, and that's your wife. People will laugh at you. Mm-hmm. That's what's not being said. And a lot of Black men understand that if Nicki Minaj is your wife, you failed in life amongst a lot of elite Black men. That's just the truth. Nobody can say it because they'll get canceled, but that's how a lot of professional Black men feel. So a lot of women who don't want to compete for those guys that have a lot of options across the bar, from white, whatever. The way they can justify not being able to get selected is, I'm going to look like this regardless. And that's what happens a lot of times.
So where's the disconnect going? Like, I understand you're saying that Black women are not wanting to compete, and we're not saying all, but
yeah.
Right. But what is the disconnect where it, the type of men that women are wanting or would love to have, as a husband, but yet are positioning themselves to not be that? And I'm not necessarily saying their personality wise, but just their look. Mm-hmm. Where is the disconnect where it's not clicking?
Wait, I want to make sure I understand. So you're saying, according to Michelle, that women, you feel like women they're dressing for themselves, right? Mm-hmm. They're competing against each other, and they're not really competing for their men, but they're still demanding things from the men that they're not competing for. And where is the disconnect based upon that? I want to make sure I want to.
Yeah.
I can definitely answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new little phrase. I call it selective positioning. And I just talked about April Jones getting with Taye Diggs. Or you might see Sierra or Russell Wilson, but why does these things happen? Because these ladies, on purpose, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Women who want to, wherever you want to be in life, if you want to go to, be a lawyer, you want to go to as a young person, pre-law, you're going to attorney firm. You're trying to figure out what the career is like, what is the professional day like, and either professional school or what is required of you through the process. Women who want to be wise, if that is their goal, they're going to have positioning based on where these men are at. If they don't know it because they haven't seen their fathers do it, they will try to find out the information. If they really want a guy that's like really God-fearing, a guy that's successful, a guy that has those morals and stuff, they'll put themselves out there to go to certain conferences. Some Chinese women I used to hear, they used to their families are middle class. They would pay for their daughters to go fly first class just so she would have a better chance of meeting a rich man. So some people will do this just on purpose. A lot of Black women, if you remember, let's go back to the Average at Best video with Kevin Samuels. That lady was an entrepreneur. She was a single mother, and she was trying to find a guy that was on her level. And Kevin Samuels said, well, the first thing is you don't know any of these men. And that's the reality. You can look real good and go to the Jack London Square in Oakland. I mean, you might not see back at Sweet Jimmy's back in the day. You're not gonna probably meet no guy that can really read and write there. That's probably not gonna happen. Okay, but as much as so as you want to be in the networking community, in the business community with a man that has the same things that you have, a lot of Black women kind of feel, and I kind of felt this way too when I graduated from Sacramento State. Like, okay, I got a biology degree, I arrive now, so the world needs to give me everything because I'm one of the few Black men that graduated in STEM. And that was completely false. It was like, no, nigga, you need to get your ass out there and work and do everything else like everybody else. This ain't nothing. You still you still in a competitive country. And that's the situation. A lot of women have not selectively or actively positioned themselves to be around the people or the men or friends they want to be. And a lot of people, especially in the Black community, we have this where you can go get a good job and get a career, but you're still hanging around people who you don't want to really be in the future. Single women who don't have, who are not married, things like that. And if you look at how upper class Blacks behave, whether they're married to Blacks or whites, one of the things that they don't like is single people. And they don't like single moms or single dads. We know that because people try to apply to get to Jack and Jill. And Jack and Jill is invitation only. And it's like, listen, you can't get into our community because we already know what the downfall is. So if you are a brother or a sister and you want to be around people that are like that, you gotta hang around those people and want to actively get into the communities where married people hang around or get advice. A lot of women pursue their careers, but not their relationship choices. And the kind of idea is, well, Amazon's going to deliver me a man like he delivers packages. And that's not the reality. God is not going to deliver you a package like it's FedEx, so you just sign for the shit.
That's right.
You have to actively pursue where you want to be, just like Kevin Samuels on Instagram. Most of us on Black YouTube are stuck on Black YouTube. Kevin Samuels wanted to be around the superstars in the world. They were not on YouTube, they were on Instagram. And that's why he took his show on Wednesday and Friday and look at the difference between his channel and mine. Because he's actively on Instagram on that community and I'm not. That's why Future and Damon John, they hit him up on Instagram. So he wants to be around these people, so he went where they were at. It's simple in life. And women have to go to where the people are instead of saying, well, they ain't there. Well, how you know they ain't there if you ain't trying?
Right.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
I agree.
To, I think sometimes, and then after this, I'm going to try to read out the super chats because they had a few with some questions on it. But I think some of this goes back to we, in my personal opinion, women, we've been catered to. I mean, at the very least, as far as marketing, the different, movies, television shows, romance novels. I mean, there's a generation of us who have been catered to and kind of essentially been told, this is kind of supposed to come to you on a platter. And so if that happens over and over and over and over again, and we're basing our life based upon what we see on television, based upon what we see on media, and then you couple that with the fact that many of us do come from single parent households, or we don't have real functionary around to compare life to, we start to base our relationship expectations based upon what we see online, based upon the celebrities that, you know, we secretly wish we had their life, or based upon our favorite romance novels. And a lot of that is that's fantasy. Like I said, in those shows and those different things that are constantly being targeted at women, you don't see women really working hard like that. You see, you know, men essentially being the Sims, for lack of a better term, just kind of, you know, tailoring to the woman. Like you're hard pressed to see a strong masculine man really on any of these television shows that's in his masculine frame, if you will. And that, like, that's being portrayed in a positive way. So I think some of this, whether or not we recognize it, because, you know, I worked in marketing for some years, I worked in corporate, and I recognize how subtle and psychological these things are, that from what we purchase to the movies we watch. I started to be like, yeah, I think all this pandering that's coming from these different ways, I think that's why there's some of us who very much believe I shouldn't have to work. I am the prize, I am the princess, I'm this, and that, and therefore I deserve this served to me on the silver platter.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. And even to Oshay, your point, I think with other communities, they groom their daughters. They groom them to become a particular type of wife and to have a particular type of husband. You know, in our community, we just waiting on Jesus to do it. God gonna bring you a man, baby. He gonna bring it, baby. You just wait. And so we're here waiting, looking like idiots. So, and grooming has a negative connotation, but grooming is not. I am making you, I am molding you as a parent should to be the woman that I want you to be. And this is going to make sure that you get the husband that you should have in order to live a particular lifestyle. And I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
That part.
Can I add something to that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. Let's let me get to these super chats real quick.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Okay. Yeah. So shout out to Antoine Wade for the 50 on the super chat. Okay. I see about to trip because I can see Brother Oshay around some beauties. Good to see you, Brother Oshay. Let's connect.
That's Mr. Rich Man right there.
Hey.
He balling for real.
Okay, there's a few others I wanted to get to. Piling through these comments. Like I said, you guys are hitting on some really good points. Again, Uncle Stu, I think I read your comment, but just giving you a special shout out there. I appreciate all the love and support. I appreciate you guys stopping by, hanging out with us. Again, if you're on here, get those likes up. Likes are free, y'all. Shout out to Black Men Unfiltered Network. I see 10 billion was spent on weaves in 2021. 400 million on education. Nice. I saw a super chat earlier that was he was like, you know, $1 billion industry, that is an addiction. That's not necessarily just a habit. Shout out to Coach Ray. Let's get the tricking started. Oh man. Okay. Also shout out to Andre C. for the 90 super chat. Also, shout out to Rob for the 20 on the super chat. I see we need to be able to employ our women. Many of our issues stems from our women not existing in the Black male-controlled system, but the women must seek to reproduce producers in our community and not poisoners and destroyers. You know what? I am going to say, I've mentioned this in previous videos where it's like, part of the issue is we have to be mindful of who we are procreating with. Right? I mean, now you go back to the 80 training rule. I don't want to go on a hit different. That's a whole different tangent. But at the end of the day, like men who do build within the Black community, they're not really celebrated. They're not really looked upon as necessarily anything exciting. One day, it says Slam Bradley, one day as a community, we'll find the balls to tell the truth about the customing of a Black woman. The sooner, the better. Y'all are dropping some heat in these chats. These chats.
The costuming of Black women, that's deep.
That's
I like that. That's a term. Come on. That was deep.
And I appreciate all of you being here. Like I said, if you're here, get those likes up. So Oshay, did you want to? I know you were midpoint. I just wanted to make sure I
Yeah.
Who've been supporting.
When I went to Howard for a few years, and they used to give scholarships to blacks coming from, especially like Nigeria at the time. I don't know about how it is now, and Trinidad, Tobago, places like that, Barbados, and you would have conversations with them, especially some of the women, and their parents would tell them, hey, the African American people, don't date them. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. That's kind of really what the stem is from, a lot of the African American versus the African immigrant beef going on in the country. But what they're saying is a lot of times is, hey, if you marry them, these people, they don't understand family. So that concept is lost. And if you marry them, they don't understand our way of life. It's not even a culture shock. They just don't have that belief in family. So now, what am I really saying with this? Every successful group in the United States, whether they are liberal or conservatives, the elites, I don't care what they're pushing, all senators are married. Their kids are married, liberal or conservative, right wing or left wing. Mm-hmm. They tell their children, hey, listen, you need to do this and this and this to get a man. And as a man, these are your roles. When I was coming up, my mom, my dad and mom divorced when I was around 14. But coming up, and you from Northern California like me, you kind of heard people like, there was Too Short, and then there was E40, and then later on there was Mac Dre, and then that kind of whole stigma was like, it's all on the bitch and all kind of stuff like that. So that kind of situation. And then the women were kind of hearing, I don't need this guy, whatever. And so when other groups interact with us, they know that despite your academic performance, and even if you come from a rags to riches story, those are your leanings, right? And you might be intelligent, but you don't understand how to interact with a man or woman in the house every day that got kids. You're not built like that. Yeah. So that's why a lot of people stay away from us, despite you met him at Tuskegee. What's his parents? Oh, he come from a single mom. Yeah, baby, you can't marry him. You can't marry her. Mm-hmm. And to be real, I didn't understand until I got older. But if I'm a parent, I'm probably saying some of the certain things to my child, whoever they date. Hey, are their parents married? No. Hey, you don't need to deal with this particular person because they're not going to understand. Because other successful groups, every successful group in America that's better than our community, they are always more married.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's facts. That's facts.
And people avoid people who their family's not married. If you want to keep wealth and stuff, you can't deal with them. Look at like Queen Elizabeth. She was married for like 74 years. Niggas can't even stay together for 74 days.
But that's because, correct me if I'm wrong, but that almost to a certain point sounds somewhat of an issue of class too, because they're saying now getting married can be expensive. Of course, if you elope, not so much, but generally speaking, marriage is expensive. And then especially in the Black community, because so many of us have grown up in broken homes or have grown up in single parent households. Like if you were to uphold that rule of like, oh, if they don't come from a 2-parent household, it's like, you're going to have to SOSBM or you're going to have to like almost date out at that point, because so many of us, that's not our experience. But I do understand once you start getting to a level of wealth. Like, for example, I have a Chinese friend of mine. Her parents are from China and very wealthy. And I remember she, at the time, she was dating a Black guy. She's not anymore, but she was dating a Black guy. I remember having a conversation with her and she was like, man, like, I'm scared to bring this man home because if I do, I could lose my inheritance. Like my mom was very clear with me the kind of man that she wants me to bring home. And it's pretty much Chinese, like Asian, outside of that, like white. Apart from that, your money's gone. And like I said, she comes from a wealthy family, has a lot of assets and essentially a name or an empire to maintain. So I'm like, I'm not surprised, but I'm like, that's what they do. That's what they're talking about. And so I wonder if some of this, again, when you start getting into higher classes, and now it's like, not only is it just you, but you have a brand, maybe you have a business, you have an image to uphold. That's when it starts to become a lot more necessary for you to come from 2-parent household versus if you're like maybe in the working class where you don't have some of those extra things to consider. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, and something that I unfortunately is learning is the idea of maintaining your wealth. And that is really who you marry into. And that's why I think with Oshay, what you were saying, you know, these wealthy people are married, these senators have a wife, and they look at their wife's family or husband's family to make sure it matches, because that's how you maintain your wealth. That's how your lineage is going to go on.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn.
We absolutely
For sure.
We absolutely do. Well, if you're on here, please get those likes up, tag anybody, share this with somebody who you think may find it interesting. I'm so happy to be joined by my special guests. I'm Courtney Michelle and Oshay Duke Jackson. We are talking about Sista Gurl Nationalism. So on to the next question. I'm going to start with you, Courtney Michelle. Let's see. So this may be a little bit of a heated topic, but I think it's important. So in your opinion, is abortion or Black femicide more of a problem in the Black community? Who is to blame for that?
Which one is?
Is abortion or Black femicide more of an issue in the Black community?
I'm going to go with the termination of children. I think that's the biggest issue right now that we have in our community. We can't have a community. We can't have a Black community if we don't reproduce. Now, I definitely can agree that we need to reproduce in a nuclear family, mommy, daddy in the household, married. But we can't have a race. We can't sustain ourselves if there's no children here to carry on our lineage, our culture. So I think that's the biggest issue. I think I read something since 1973. There's been 19 million abortions. That's 19, you know, that the Black community has had. Black women are the majority of women that are having abortions. So I think that's the biggest thing that we need to tackle in our community. First, the whys. Why are we terminating babies? Why is it so much? I think we need to understand that this is also a part of Black genocide, the Margaret Sanger of it all, why she decided, or why is every Planned Parenthood usually in the hood. So it's all systematically, I think, done, but we just kind of fall in the trap. But I think that's the biggest thing that we need to focus on. The female genocide, I'm just kind of learning about that. I know that's a feminist term that was brought up by Diane Russell. And I don't even necessarily think that I necessarily agree with the term.
Femicide, I actually, you know, it's funny. I'm going to do a pre-record on this later on to break it down. But I did a live about this a few days ago that kind of made some sense, because I think Black femicide, I've seen that term a lot used to push the narrative that Black men are the most violent, that they're killing women, and therefore Black women need to divest or marry out. That's essentially, most of the time when I see that term being used, it is used to give women an excuse to separate from the community, which I think is disingenuous, because again, if you look at the numbers,
it's a divestors talking point.
Yeah, and the what is it, that stat, every 5 hours a Black woman,
every 5 hours a woman is taken out.
And I'm just like, if they're using the FBI, and I'm like, what they're not taking into consideration, it's like, what? First of all, those are arrests. The numbers that they're pulling from, they're looking at arrests. They're not looking at convictions. Also, 1/3 of the murders are unsolved. 1/3 of the perpetrators, we don't know their race. So like, they just took these numbers and just like divided it. And I'm like, they're not taking all these variables into consideration. So it's like, this is bad math. Like, we literally just did some bad math and then are using this to push a narrative that is just not true. At the best, we should look at that and say, okay, this is inconclusive. But, and not to mention, Black men are being killed more. So let's say Black women are being killed every 5 hours, and that means Black men are probably getting killed every 2 hours. So it's just like, these ideas, I think it's so easy for us to just use it to try to push propaganda or push a narrative. And I'm not for that. I'm like, yes, we can address the issue. But we should address the issue. We shouldn't use it for an ulterior motive. And that's where that's for me, where I feel like, no, that's dangerous.
Right.
So, but anyways, I mean, Oshay, what do you think? In your opinion, is abortion or Black femicide more of a problem in the Black community, and who is to blame?
Yeah, so when I thought about femicide, I thought about, like, isn't that what China was doing like 80 years ago, or Japan? If a woman was female, then it was. That was something similar, but I, as you were talking, I had to kind of get myself abreast of what it was, maybe in the current day, because I'm kind of ignorant to what that is.
So
But it looks like.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's homicide that basically homicide against Black women.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Black femicide is. So it's homicide.
So, it's men taking out women because they're women. To be more specific. So, and I don't see I'm gonna take her out because she got breast. I don't. I don't see it, but it's just a talking point of divestors, and they just use it as a cover up because they're bitter broads.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at. I don't know. I'm on Wikipedia. I don't know how accurate that is. It says that femicide accounts for more than 5 women daily. So I would guess 5 to 6 daily, something like that. And it doesn't describe if those women, what are their race. But I do see there are some similarities in what the characteristics of these women who are suffering. And most of them are suffering that are victims of femicide based on increased poverty and decreased collective efficacy. So social cohesion amongst neighbors, meaning that there's no community around these women. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Mm-hmm. If you're going to tell me that these women have the ability to come out here and be single moms, and they should be able to have the state support them, things like that, which we know that in this economy, single women are the most vulnerable. Okay, so these most vulnerable women who are going to be unmarried are going to be the most likely people to experience femicide. So if you're going to argue for them to continue to go the way which may lead into poverty and then complain about femicide at the same time, well, those are the characteristics of those victims based on economic analysis. So abortion has been hurting the Black community, but I want to kind of also go back to that, because what are the resources that these children are going to receive? Because like right now I'm in Uganda. It's a lot of fucking going on outside, obviously, all through the continent. Hate to say that. I'm sorry to be rude. I'm sorry. I won't say it. So I'm sorry. Effing, maybe. Okay. The population is out of control. 30 million people here in the last 30 years. Like, do you know? Like, that's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So what are the resources that you give these people to do something? That's also the next question. I mean, I'm not trying to say that I agree with abortion, but at the same time, what are the resources that you give these kids to do something? Is the Black on Black crime going to be worse? I would argue that, well, it's not femicide, and it's probably not abortion, but out of the two, it would most likely be abortion. Because if you have these kids, what are they going to become?
Right.
Well, you don't know. So,
to Oshay's earlier point, because like I said, I've done a little research and I'm still researching on this. But when you look at Black women in particular in America who experience the most homicide are those who are 19 years and younger. And as you mentioned earlier, Oshay, a lot of it has to do with the socioeconomic background. So when you control for wealth, when you can control for class, then those numbers either decrease or increase. So it's really more a conversation about economic access, class, class mobility, all the kind of different stuff. It's really more a question about that, what you have access to, poverty or lack thereof. Those are larger factors in whether or not a woman is more likely to be homicided versus her living next to a Black man. So,
okay. That's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong. Black women do experience, abuse from guys in our community. I would never tell you that they don't. So, but out of those two options, femicide is not one of them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I
think it's a made-up term. I don't see any men. I mean, maybe there's one or two that wants to terminate women because they're women, but I mean, terminate. There's crazy people. Period.
Right.
Period.
I was niggas get shot every day, B. You know what I'm saying? So to just particular, but it's on the women. Well, men get knocked out more than women by men. So, but you don't hear menacide.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, to make homicide
like
a women's issue is kind of disingenuous when literally all across the board in all ethnic groups, men are pretty much killed at a higher rate. Like, there's just like, so to make it a female issue when it affects both sides, men more, is like, well, what are we really talking about?
Silly talking point by like those investors.
So, well, no, you guys make some good points. Again, if you guys are on here, get those likes up. Likes are free, y'all. Also, if you would like to show support to the show, you can find me on Shop. Then also shout out. I see. Shout out to Jesse for the 10 on the Cash App. I'm just now seeing this. I appreciate you, Jesse, for sending me some love. Also, I'll be sure to try to read and acknowledge all super chats. So, also, I appreciate you guys being on here again and just sharing your perspective. I definitely appreciate it. We were getting down to the end of these questions. I had intended to try to get this all within the first hour, but you guys are having some really good responses. So I appreciate you bearing with me. So, okay, Courtney, Michelle, I will start with you.
Mm-hmm.
So why do Sista Gurl Nationalists celebrate Black female swirlers but condemn Black men who marry out?
That was a good question. And I got to think on that. I think, first, I didn't know that this was a thing.
I know, honestly, I low-key made it a thing.
Okay, that's your thing. Okay, because I was like, what the hell?
I posted my definition of Black Sista Gurl Nationalism on my community tab yesterday. And basically what it is, to me, if I was to explain it is a strain of nationalism that select African-American women held that focus on key issues. One of them being Black males' dating preference. One of them being, complaining of Eurocentric beauty standards while wearing Eurocentric weaves. One of them being, the idea that it's hard to maintain a healthy BMI under a racist system. Essentially, all these different core issues that I think can be used or can be valid, or can also be used as excuses. So, and like I said, I've seen all of these points used in both instances. Like, I've been seeing it used to be like, okay, these are maybe valid concerns, or no, this is something that I'm using to try to escape accountability and culpability. So it's kind of something that I made up. But the reason I said nationalist is because, like, for example, and when it comes to Black men's dating preference, the Black women in particular, I think as a whole group, are the most nationalist ever. Like, if that Black man is not dating the dark-skinned Black woman, ADOS, FBA, West African features, natural 4Z hair, then he hates his mama. You know what I mean? Or he likes preferences. And again, this is not all Black women, but I'm just saying, like, these are consistent talking points that I see either being celebrated or simply not being challenged, if I'm being honest. They're just usually not being challenged. And then when they are being challenged, you're a Black man worshiper. I've been called that many a times. So that's why I thought, we need to talk about this, because I kind of see all these ideas and concepts clumped together when it comes to these issues. So I hope that explains things.
Okay. No, I was trying to Google that. I said, what the hell?
No, I kind of like,
but it's your thing. Well, I like it.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you remember the question, or do I need to reread it?
Well, you can, just so everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So revisit the question: why do Sista Gurl Nationalists celebrate Black female swirlers but condemn Black men who marry out?
Okay. So I think these particular type of women, the swirlers, celebrate when a Black woman gets with a non-Black man is because it gives them some kind of hope that maybe they can, or some kind of hope that, okay, Black men didn't want me and I see a Black woman with a white man or an Asian man, maybe there's hope. So it's the celebration of trying to have hope for themselves. But yet when they see a Black man with a white woman or another race, I think it kind of solidifies with them that they feel maybe rejected by the Black man. So it's easy for them to try to, disrespect them or look at them in a certain kind of way. Oh, he's a coon, or he's a whatever because he's with someone of the opposite race because they feel rejected. But at the end of the day, I just think it's an issue with them and their insecurities where they're looking at other people, whether it's a black man with another race or a white black woman with another race. It's their insecurities because it's something within them that they're not able to attain the man that they want. So if they're wanting a black man, they're going to look at it, but the black man don't want her. Oh, it must be because he got a mama issues or, you know, he just selling out because for the white woman. But it's you. Majority of black men want black women. Majority of black men are married to black women. Majority of white men don't want your ass. Majority of white men are married to white women. So let's just keep it funky.
You made somebody upset.
I
See,
did.
you just hurt somebody's No, I did this. I broke this down on a lot. What was it? Because I ran the numbers recently, and it was like about 1% of black men. Now, this is nationwide. Of course, in certain pockets, of course, in certain areas, you're going to see higher percentage of it. But like nationwide, you're taking into consideration the rural South, right? And those Midwest, it's like, I think white men marry black women at like 1%. You know what I mean? They're like the least to marry out. And of course, you know, when you control for class, the numbers even change. And then it's not much better for Asian women, for Hispanic men. So that's not to say women can't marry out, but this idea of like, oh, I'm going to really expand my options when I just leave black men aside, it's like, where? Because black men are primarily the ones checking for you. And I have no issue with dating or marrying out. I have zero issue with that. I just think we have to be honest with the implications, especially when you live in a society that is not free of racism. You can't pretend like that doesn't weigh into how people date and mate.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Oh, so okay. What? Oh, I'm sorry, Courtney. What were you saying?
Well, you know, and I'm saying just to kind of compare it too. You also see it with. I know some comments where I watched 600-Pound Life. And then bigger women have been like, well, they getting married and y'all say y'all want someone fit, but they 600 pounds and ain't got a man. And it's like, okay, that's TV. And yeah, but that's not the majority. That's not what the majority of men are saying that you want. So you're using a very, very minute percentage of maybe they're fetishized or whatever, but you're using that to celebrate it because it's giving you an ounce of hope other than really working on yourself and doing the work to get what you truly desire.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Oshay, what do you think? In your opinion, why do Sista Gurl Nationalists celebrate black female swirlers but condemn black men who marry out?
All right, so let me be a little long-winded. So like I said, I've been in Africa right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been all around the world. And one thing I noticed is that, you know, being African-American, like when you show up, oh, okay, it's good to hear. When the white guys show up, it's a little different. Even if the white guy doesn't have what I have, and let's put it in the context, white guys are looked at everywhere in the world as they are powerful, even if they're not, because they own the corporations, they create the things that we have, the YouTubes, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Apples, everything, right? And so the black women themselves, that's who they work for. They don't work for us. They work for, in certain small cases, you may have, you know, somebody like Tyler Perry or somebody like that, where a black woman can really see a successful black man. But most of us, we go to college, we're educated by white people, white men. So white men are looked at as, these are the guys that get things done. So when you look at black men, it's sort of the total opposite in many cases. They're unproductive. You know, they may have some swag and things, but you know, things that are, you know, to deal with infrastructure, be it physical or, you know, economics or creating things. That's not what we're known for. There's some guys who do it, but that's not what we're known for. So when a black woman says that, you know, I'm educated and this is the guy that's hiring me, I work for him every day. Oh, I can make an exception for him because he's the guy that provides for me. I mean, I'm paying my mortgage to his bank, you know? So another thing too, there are benefits that black women can get. Well, there's one thing that a white man can give a black woman that a black man cannot, and that is a mulatto child. And that's not my idea. I'm shout out to the late, great David Carroll. So if you're a black woman and you get a mulatto child, that child instantly is top notch in the black community. You know, they get a lot, if they're a good looking child, they get a lot of they can compete and they get privileges. So the reality is that black women, if you can look at Bossa, Madame Noir, you can have a white man like Serena Williams. She married Alex Ohanian. The guy doesn't make nearly as much as she does. But Bossa, Madame Noir, they big it up because that's who has the power. So whoever has the power, they get exceptions. That's just pretty much what it's about. Okay. Now, the way that has to be, the way that can be changed, and a lot of black men feel some sort of way about it, and I understand it. But the only way that black men can get some of that respect back from a lot of people is to try to compete on an international level, even if you can't, but you got to try to control much of your economy as possible. And there are things that, black men can do. Well, let's say, for example, like when you see a lot of the, like Ebony, Jet, they used to have the beauty of the week. If you remember that back in the day.
Yeah, I do.
I wanted to be one. I wanted to be. Oh man, I want to be.
I remember that as a kid, and and every single. I remember that.
Yeah, you don't really see a lot of black men that are coming together to try to portray, the black woman that they want, or a lot of black men trying to work with other guys, because there are a lot of talented black men that make a lot of money or cost. You don't really see that often. So when black women look at black men, they don't really see that. But as a white guy, you can be the lower tier white guy and you still represent that. Like for me, depending on what you say, I could be top 1 or top 5% earner in America. I've done that 2 or 3 years straight. But I don't represent the top 1 to 5% guys by looks. Because when people look at me, I'm still attached to the dude doing a drive-by out there on 55th Street. You know what I'm saying? Whereas when the white guy, it's wherever I go. If I was in Tanzania in Dar es Salaam, and I was talking to and this lady was speaking Swahili in the restaurant. She said, "This guy, is he a gangster like the people on TV? You see?" But when the white guy comes in, he's automatically looked at as smart. He's looked at as he's going to do something good for the community. As black men, you have to go out and you have to prove that all the time that you're not an idiot. Even in Africa. But I want to say that to say this. Black women also have the best economy in Black America. They're the best spending power. So, black men are looked at as economically apathetic, are cheap, are not standing up for their own issues. So black women can make those rules for themselves and exceptions, whereas black men, those rules are very stringent. Now, for example, I want to say this to not be long-winded. If you are a black man and you are dating a white woman and she's unattractive and you are largely unsuccessful, black women do not care. They don't care. Like if you're the guy that works at Jiffy Lube and you have a big white girlfriend, they don't care. Who do they care? I have one of good friends that went to Meharry Dental School. 2 of them, one's married to a black woman, one married to a Persian. Now, if you're an orthodontist from Meharry and your wife is Persian, now that's an issue. Why didn't you remember when Kobe Bryant, when he died, it was a big beef about Vanessa Bryant. Like, why did he leave all that money to her? Robert Smith, he just gave how much money to black colleges, Morehouse, and then he just did another $1.8 million last week. Why is Robert Smith married to the white woman? Because these are the guys that have shown, that they're productive, that they can actually get things done. And the reality is that if you're a black man like that, you are still linked amongst the ne'er-do-wells in Black America. Whereas the white guys are not linked like that. They represent the community of everybody who does well. When you're a black man, you're still trying to be like, please don't lump me in with Pookie and Ray Ray. Don't do that. So those are the differences, I believe.
Yeah. And, because I totally agree. And I think it's because we have a ideology of scarcity, where when we see the black man that's an orthodontist with someone that's not black, we be like, damn, he gone. There's one less good black man in our community, because we don't see that majority. We don't look at black men as majority being good, because we have this trope where we, say for a long time, black men are either in jail with a white woman or homosexual.
or gay.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's a good
therefore,
one.
if y'all are all those three, then it's just a little small minority that are actually doing well, and even smaller that are, you know, top notch. So when we see that, and the idea of scarcity, because we believe these ideas, then it angers Black women. But when we see the Jiffy Lube with the white girl that's 600, then it's like, well, he was one of those. He was a, you know. So that's that. I think that's the idea, and why maybe Black women get upset, because it's the idea of scarcity. But again, it's because of those stereotypes of Black men not being here, that they're gone or with another man.
Well, and I think too, Black men, this is why I started the, Black men building series, because I think Black men who really do have a mindset to build, or who are about, being productive, whatever, they're not really celebrated. I mean, if we think again to the kind of Black men that are hypersexualized, it's not the dentist or the lawyer or the business owner. I mean, I think now we have Kevin Samuels, who I think is really starting to for the first time, kind of put this business side of it as something desirable. But for a long time, it's like, Black homosexuality was like this kind of hyper toxic, like he's aggressive, he's like in the streets, right? Or he's an athlete, or he's a rapper. Like these very kind of, I think, some of these tropes. And we don't celebrate. Like we talk about the 2G phone, the smartphone. Now Blackman was responsible for that. The internet that we have right now, the fact that we can have this conversation was because of different Black men who came together and helped, birth things that were integral to the internet, even the computer. So like all things that our modern society depends upon, we don't celebrate those things. So I think even when men they are building, maybe it's not like the most sexy thing. They're not rappers or doing songs, but they're doing the things that are literally leading to this modern society. We don't celebrate. They don't get accolades. No one hears about it. And then these narratives continue. So I think it's a little bit of both too, going back to the stereotypes, and women sometimes, I think, like being encouraged to pick the wrong kind of men, and then the good men, like I said, who do build, who are looking for things. Maybe they're not the sexiest or not the handsomest, whatever, and then they get celebrated maybe by other women. They get noticed by other cultures who have taught their daughters the kind of qualities to look for, and I think it just kind of continues this divide.
Yeah.
I don't know. You want to weigh on that, Coach Courtney?
Go ahead, Oshay.
All right. Let me just say this, because also it's proximity. Because if you're in some of the more, cities, Atlanta, Washington, D.C. Now, obviously, we from Northern California, so you don't really get to see a lot of that. You did maybe in Oakland sometime back.
In Richmond, are you?
Yeah, but now, I mean, because you had like your church, like Third Baptist in San Francisco, which was nothing but an elite church. But if you look at, because Black men, if you are somebody in Black America, don't get me wrong, people appreciate you, or that's looked at, in certain other communities. But if you're a Black man and you have, I don't care what you look like, you're doing something that's beneficial. Okay, you might not be getting all the IG models, but you don't need them anyway. People like productivity. We just, as men, we gotta understand that if you are a guy who is valuable to society or valuable to your group, women, somebody will come check for you. A lot of people.
Somebody, yeah.
I don't have, Antoine Wade. Brother Gabe is an engineer. Antoine Wade is an MBA. I never hear guys that are successful. Some of my friends who are doing well, that I'm not celebrated a lot. I don't hear that. I mean, because if you live, especially in some of the cities, New York City, if you live in Philadelphia, if you live in Atlanta, if you live in LA, because LA got a lot of successful Black women and stuff like that, you're just not going to have problems. You just don't. Nashville, where Fisk and Tennessee and Meharry is at. Come on now. Charlotte, North Carolina. I think a lot of Black men, I go where I'm celebrating. A lot of guys were talking like this. And don't get me wrong. Yeah, education could be celebrated better in the Black community, but there's you're not wanted for anything. Every human likes people who are worthwhile, who are confident, who can do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I never felt that way from Black women. People say, "Oh man, you look." Listen, I never had no problems. Never. Black America, drop me off in Nashville. Well, you know, Courtney's gonna be fighting over me anyway. But anyway,
Damn right. You damn right.
right. You know, talking about buy me some sandals. But I would tell Black men as far as the celebration, it's up to you to celebrate yourself. That's what it is. And the reality is that we used to have in Sacramento 100 Black men. That was the name of the group. They used to sponsor Little Leagues, probably all over the country.
Yeah, it's here.
Go to Morehouse graduation, and we know that some of the brothers in Morehouse might not like women. Guess what? It's women all over there looking for those guys because they're going there to catch a husband at the graduation. You're gonna see nothing but fine sisters everywhere. If you're a successful Black man and you are out there, people know who you are. Women know who you are. And I think a lot of guys can use that as an excuse as to why they don't do things or why they don't want to, you know, be productive. If you want to, you know, I don't need nobody to celebrate me. You know, and that's the thing. Like, well, you're celebrating other communities. Well, do they really want you over there with their daughter? Because as soon as somebody steals something, they're gonna look at you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of Black people gotta start being realistic and, well, I'm celebrated over here, but why are they celebrating you?
Yeah.
It's because you have something to offer you. They probably don't want you marrying their daughter. They probably don't want you bringing in or moving into their neighborhoods. They probably don't want that, you know? So are they really celebrating you? It's up to you to push your agendas on people as a man. Not to look for somebody to celebrate. You just want people to respect you. Who cares if they celebrate you or not? And a lot of Black men use that to not be successful and then go to the other groups and then you still not celebrated. OJ, he was celebrated for a minute, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was not guilty. Is he still celebrated?
I think it depends who you talk to.
I mean, as far as with white people, is he celebrated? No.
None of these guys are. Most of these guys who deal in that deny the Black world, which we all know in Black YouTube itself by itself can get you rich. Mm-hmm. Not even having to deal with nobody else as your subscriber base. But now, the minute you tell me that you are appreciated by other groups, and I can understand it because I went to California State University. So there's a lot of Black dudes there interracially. But as soon as they're problematic, it's going to come back to, okay, your race is what now? You shouldn't have been doing so there you go.
Yeah.
Instead of Black men understand that's the trick of the enemy, it's up to you to provide for your community. It's up to you to solve men to solve problems. And a lot of Black men get a little bit too weak with those positioning statements instead of trying to come in and work with the communities and work with your people. That's what you should be doing. And then when you do that, you're celebrated when you're successful. When you're not successful as a group, you don't get to be celebrated. This is a team game here. Oh, I went to medical school, so everybody should stop there and worship me. No, nobody cares. What are you doing? What do you provide for people? What value do you bring, and do you make people respect you? At the end of the day, white community, Black community, Asian community, all the diverse nationality. How productive are you, and what can you do? Mm-hmm. In Africa, people don't like me because I'm an American. When I'm here, I got to base off what do I do, not the fact that I have a blue passport. And that's what Black men got to get back to. And I also want that thing. Black men have lower standards. Like, to be a successful Black man is actually a lower threshold than being a successful white man. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a white guy, amongst Black men, the bar is a lot lower to what we consider to be successful. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to even do as much to be real.
Well, why do you think that is? Do you think it's because they're already expecting you not to be successful? So
exactly. A lot of Black women don't expect you to be able to do nothing.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to be real.
Right.
That's an interesting perspective. You know, it's funny because I've heard, you know, talking to Black men, I've heard the opposite of that. But you know, I mean, I don't want to speak for. I'm not a man, obviously, so I don't really know how it is to go around the world and see how you're being perceived. So that's interesting, because I always, I think of the idea of the black tax, you kind of having to prove yourself. It's like you being guilty until proven innocent, you being perceived as being, negative until you show otherwise. So that's an interesting perspective, Oshay. I've never thought of it that way.
Well,
can I weigh in on? Go ahead, Courtney. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
Well, I think expectations within the Black community and then expectations you being Black trying to assimilate in the white community is two different things.
Okay.
So expectations as far as a Black man in the Black community, well, he ain't in jail. Oh, you got a good one. And some families think that way. I mean,
okay. Because I feel like
the expectation sometimes for us in the Black community is not as high. But then when you try to assimilate into these white communities, because they've already had an upper hand usually, then you're expected to be like them or higher. And to get even to a lot of their levels, you got to jump through hurdles where they've already been given to them for free, because they understand the idea of networking. But networking is they know a man and know a man. You getting in those spaces is a nuance to a lot of us now.
Now, wasn't it Kevin Samuels though who said that Black men have to build Wakanda for Black women to start respecting them, or something like that? I don't remember the exact words, but he kind of made this reference where it's like, look, Black women are looking for Black men to build Wakanda. He was speaking about how, there are sometimes these expectations. It's like, he got to do this, he got to do that. And I don't know if this maybe varies by Black woman. Like if you're a Black woman who maybe is already coming with the understanding that like Black men are trash or struggle dusties or whatever, then there's nothing that he could do to be well. And then you may go date a struggle Brad, and that's automatic level up. So there are some women out there where it's like Black men can do no good, and then a non-Black man or white man can do no wrong. And so we do see that dynamic. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it varies by person, community, family. I don't know. It's just like I've never heard of it that way, Oshay. I've usually heard the opposite, that Black men feel like they have to prove themselves. That's an interesting idea.
Well, I think. Well, go ahead, Oshay, because I know you wanted to say something.
No. Go ahead. Ladies first. You know me. I'm not from Memphis, so
I'm not either.
You don't want to talk about it? Okay, I'll call you out.
But shout out Memphis 901. What are women expectations of men? So I think what Oshay was talking about is necessarily success. Women, a lot of times with women, success looks maybe different than men. So going up and going over and beyond for women, and a man is like, I want him to build Wakanda. It's not good enough. Maybe that he has a good job and come from good stock. No, I want him to be able to pay all my bills. I want him to take care of sister cousin them because my daddy couldn't. I want him to have a six-pack, be 6 foot. I want him to romance me, but still be gangster, but still be masculine. So the expectations of a man is not necessarily just success that a lot of women, I think, are wanting. They want to be swept. Women want to be swept off their feet as far as the Prince Charming, but our idea of Prince Charming is perfection.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting point. Real quick, I want to do we'll shout out to the super chats, and then Oshay, I think you had something you were going to say.
Yeah.
Shout out to Deanie with the 5 on the super chat. I see Oshay. I strongly disagree with you on Black conservationism.
Conservatism.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry in America, but you've always been solid for the betterment of Black men. Salute. Shout out to Deanie. Also, shout out to I think that's Stefan, educated Tyrone. It says, I don't know if I agree with that, LOL. Even Tyrones get pressure to make more money and provide more stable qualities after a honeymoon phase, in my experience. Very interesting. And then I think I've seen Mr. Charles with the 2 on the super chat. Shout out to the best GM on Black YouTube. Hi, lady. Thanks for stopping by. And then there was one more. Chief Rocca, shout out for the 5 on the super chat. See, Black men are taught that the only thing you have is your name and good word. At least that's how it was when I was growing up. So it sounded like you are having some pushback here. And then Bobby Wright. Interesting how
Come
black
on,
people
Bobby.
make women swirlers, but not make swirlers when it was a white man and a black woman that made interracial marriage legal.
He on the
So-
swirler's ass tonight. He
So,
on it,
Oshay,
boy.
what
Every
do you
ticket
have to say with all that? Looks like you have a few disagreeers in the comments or detractors, but I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna just say this, and this is gonna be anecdotal. And I understand a lot of black men feel like, you know, I'm not where I want to be. I got made fun of, or whatever else the case may be. And some guys go in the manosphere are actively in different countries. Colombia, you have some brothers here, and even in Africa. You know, I've even had guys who are, you know, PhDs and or at least doctors. What's this guy's name? He was telling me about it, but he was telling me he has friends that have PhDs that are married to Ghanaian women now, because they see things a little bit different. But I just want to say this: no, in my honest opinion, people really cannot respect you if you are a black man coming from your community and you are not able to monetize your own people, and you cannot really deal with your women, and another group accepts you. There's a lack of respect you got to have for that sort of person. They may not say it, but you would have to. It's almost like, you know, if you ever talk to an immigrant and they come to America talking shit about black people, what is our first thought? Well, why didn't you do that where you were at? And people have to think that, like, what is he doing with my daughter? Is there something wrong with his people? Why don't his people like him? You have to think about that. And the reality is that a lot of black men have, you know, somewhat of a disdain from where they may have come up, or opportunities given to them. But ultimately, everybody who gets respect in the world, usually, especially on the local level, it's our job to monetize our own people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people don't got to like you, but they got to respect you. When you have your men that, and I'm not saying this for all the cases, because obviously proximity happens. You know, if you go to PWI University and whoever you may meet, we understand those things happen. But ultimately, successful black men and smart people everywhere rule and dominate. That's all you should be worried about. And I think a lot of guys think that it's different for us, because it's not. You know, if you come in and you're a man that you push your agenda and you doing things for your community, like I watch YouTube videos all the time. How do you build the local economies, and what do you do? What are the steps you take? It's just simple as that, because I think a lot of people think that you're going to get some kind of respect from someplace else, and it's just not there. I've lived in Poland. I've seen these guys, you know, that come from Nigeria and Zimbabwe, and they're married to Polish people, and the things they say about them. Some people may be cool with them, but ultimately it's like, you're not supposed to be here. You know, what are you doing with our daughter? And when they have kids, well, then we all know what happens. I had a buddy where was making a little monkey song about her. You know, he has biracial kids. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but then you're going to face that by some people, because these children are different. They're not white. Yeah. So ultimately, what I would tell, you know, black men, you know, and a lot of brothers have a certain disdain for the black community. That's the only community that you have. You know, it's up to you to work with your people. And that's the same thing. Even if I was not in here, I'd be in America. You know, and some women gonna like it. Some people not ever gonna like you, regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
That's paramount to understand. These femicide people and all this other stuff. I think a lot of times as black men in the manosphere, we engage people who should never be talked to in the first place. If they're not in that level of understanding, then why are we talking to you? It don't make no sense. But now there are those women in the middle, in the black community, that's looking for a black man. And there's people as black men that want to do business with you, that want to work with you. Then you deal with who you can deal with and leave all the excuses on the side. Because I in the black manosphere community, working with black men has changed my life. Working with black people, where I don't have to get up and punch the clock for nobody. Now the white man would never gave me that, but my people gave me that. My people retired me, where I could pay my tuition off as a medical student if I decided to do that. Black folks gave me that opportunity. Nobody else gave me that, but black folks did. So then you mean to tell me that I'm gonna, like my community don't accept me? If you're good, and I know I'm being long with it, Black business, the same problem with black businesses. Black businesses don't want to put in the work. They don't want to upgrade their equipment and complain about nobody wants to support them. You heard of Slutty Vegan in Atlanta? Always sold out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's that one place in the Turkey Leg Hut in Houston? If you have, always sold out. Just because you're a black man, you got to bring value in all aspects. You got to be a man. You got to be confident, obviously. You got to stand on your boundaries. And if people don't respect you, then you get rid of them and find somebody who do respect you. It's the same thing you do when you go to the white community. Why are you complaining about this one? People are going to be the people that's going to, the same rules going to apply wherever you go. Here in Africa and Poland and the United States. Are you somebody that contributes to society? Are you a man worth being with? And do you make women respect you? If the answer is yes, 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 then we're not complaining about, oh, okay, well, they don't celebrate me.
Mm-hmm.
People celebrate people who do what they're supposed to do and be where you're supposed to be at.
Okay, so you're saying that in your opinion, men in general, black men in general, who really are bringing value, they're not complaining about not being celebrated, because wherever they go, their actions, their what they produce is going to speak for itself.
That is correct. I believe, because think about this. Black men who are very successful, they may date white women, they may date Asian women, they may date Hispanic women. If they're at the top tier, whatever race those women are, they're very good looking, they're very well educated. Look at Jesse Williams, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Williams' current girlfriend and his ex-wife, both of them were highly educated women, highly skilled women. Two of them black and one of them was white. Guys are going to deal with the same quality of people regardless of the race. So the higher up that you get, those problems, oh, you're a loudmouth, oh, you're a single mom, oh, you got tattoos, like that's not even a conversation for guys who are doing well. We're not complaining about those things. The guys that I know, it's like, oh, well, she came in here and she had on those Roman tie-up sandals. What are you talking about? What is that even like? That might be a lot of brothers' conversations, but as brothers start to move up, you don't talk about those things anymore. It's not even wild. Mm-hmm. And like shout out to George Mick, he used to say, you know what, bro, you talk about a lot of things that guys go through, but you don't even experience those things yourself. And I don't. A lot of successful black men don't have those conversations as they keep on the road to where they're going. And that's the most important thing. If you're a black man going on the road that you're trying to get to, a lot of sidebar conversations that we're having about, you know, baby mamas and the weave rings and sandals and stuff like that, you don't have to even deal with none of them. They're where are they at? Okay, we're not even living over there with them. No way. That's nice. They can do whatever you want to do over there.
Interesting.
And you know what? And I think that also ties into what you said earlier, where, you know, black women aren't putting themselves in the positions. The ones that are understanding to put themselves in the position around those particular men are going to be the women that those men want, because they understand that. So I think it all ties in together. So I hear you.
Yeah. And I wonder, so what you're saying, and I wonder if this goes back to kind of what we mentioned earlier about class and about how, you know, anytime you start putting yourself in better environments, right, that have, you know, more wealth, more access to just better things, period. You'll see a decrease in a lot of things, right? Violence, homicide, I mean, all the essential riffraff and some of the behavior associated with that. When you start to move in better environments. And so I wonder if what you're speaking of kind of comes back to class, for lack of a better term, or socioeconomic mobility.
Well, look, I believe that definitely is a real major factor. But the thing about it is, for a lot of African American men who want to be, a lot of conversations that we have in the black community, they tend to be sidebar conversations about what we're trying to achieve.
Okay.
And the reality is, a lot of black people are focused on what they don't want instead of what they're trying to achieve. And the reality is that if you are a man, and no disrespect to black women, you have a longer span to get it right.
That's
like
true.
Look at Rick, like Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels, when I met him, he's 47 years old. people were talking about, well, before that time, what was he doing? The reality is does it matter right now? It doesn't matter. Because what we're dealing with right now is he's on right now. He's successful as hell right now. Okay? Even the football, the Los Angeles Rams. 10 years ago, the Rams was trash. What are we talking about? They're Super Bowl champions, right? Because right now they're good. And that's the situation that we're dealing with. A lot of men need to just worry about their progression of what they're trying to achieve and what those goals are. And then as you do that, these other things and situations and one that you don't like and don't want, that solves itself. And as far as wanting praise for somebody, and again, I got to go back to this. Well, black women don't appreciate some builders. I would say this: for the women that don't need to be with you, don't appreciate it. And I know I can't curse, so I won't. So F them. If you don't appreciate what I bring, what I can do, then I don't need to talk to you no way. What do we have a conversation for?
That's true.
Then you need to be over here. The people that need, and the more talented you are, and the more hardworking you are, the less people are going to be around you anyway. So they're not supposed to understand it. Most people are going to be stuck on foolishness. I don't care how good they look, because they're foolish. So you got to let them do what God called them to do, or what God allowed the devil to trick them to do, which is to be stupid. And once you get that, and that everybody not for you, then you understand that. But the people who's supposed to be around you are going to notice who you are. And that's what you should be worried about. Not these other things. Oh, the 95% of the women that got these big old booties over here doing Pookie and Ray Ray. It's fun to talk about, but she wasn't supposed to be for you anyway. She's not going to understand your work, your lifestyle anyway. So she ain't supposed to be there.
Right.
Very, very, very interesting. No, and like I said,
Herman. Come on, Pastor Jackson, baby.
No, she wasn't supposed to be there.
Because like I said, I can only speak from a woman point of view and the different struggles and things that I hear. But it's always good and interesting and refreshing to hear it from them, especially you who've traveled different nations and have talked to different people. So interesting, very, very interesting stuff. I do want to real quick give a special shout out to JoJo with the 5 on the super chat. I see we don't take dating out too lightly in the space. If it ain't black love, we not cold would it be one. We put our black wealth into our community. Shout out to Zelat Labala's world.
Oh, that's a question.
Okay, it says Mr. Jackson, why are your videos geared towards saying black women are mad when black men marry out the mad black woman? I find it divisive. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, number one, when I say guess who's mad, I'll always say guess who's mad, and ain't nobody really mad, because I'm just trying to get you to click on the video.
Right. That's just
but we're going to be honest. There are, I believe, I can't prove how many it is, but I definitely believe that for black men who are top 10% and up, or let's say, for example, if that's economics or that's in looks, if black women see those sort of men with a white man, because it's hard to get for a black woman. I think a woman a man that she thinks that is super attractive, because it has to do with height and structure, facial structure, and all that other stuff, and then also a high economic earner. I do feel that there are certain black women, not all, that do find that to be a little, taking it a little bit personal, and especially if it's somebody like, let's say, Drake. You have somebody like Jamie Foxx. Guys that you would think they would have a great opportunity to deal with, like Kobe Bryant, people like that, because these are guys that have economics and things like that, and networks and access, and that they're not what an African American woman. And when you do see these guys with black women, they're like mixed, Kira Tran. They more lighter than Courtney, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, Courtney.
It's the preference. It's the preference. It's the preference conversation, and whether or not the successful, man, they only want preferences or non-black women. So, and that kind of circles back to what we were talking about earlier.
Especially in the entertainer class. And I will say this: in the entertainer class, in NBA class. Now, you have some brothers like Chris Paul, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, the Cookie Johnson. You have some black men that have, women who are black and very beautiful women. But also there are some some of these younger guys now that you're seeing what their preference is, especially with Nick Cannon, all his baby mamas. and and all of them are, you know, non-black, or they got to have some kind of, you know, some written. I think that there's some women out there who take concerns because those are some of the kind of guys they may want to date, and why not them?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
not all
class
yeah
is different. You mentioned that stuff is different, and when you're in that environment, it's like, I mean, some of those relationships are, you know, kind of controlled, or they are made behind the scenes, you know what I mean, orchestrated behind the scenes. So it's like, that's why I always am very leery of women comparing their real life to celebrities, because like celebrity class, they operate in a completely different way. Even NBA, I mean, it's no secret that there's been different racist policies that happen in the NBA. I know people who have been in it, and I remember one in particular was talking about how, you know, when he would have parties, the owners there, and it's different by different teams, but that team in particular, the owners were like, don't bring black women to these parties. They only let non-black women and white women in those parties, and made sure that the NFLs were, you know, hanging out with those ladies. So you have those kind of practices going on behind the scenes too. Like, we can't just think like these, especially some of these younger athletes, that they're not, you know, they're not really representing a brand, and that sometimes there may be coaches or different things, pressures that may push them in a certain direction. So I think it's a lot more complicated or nuanced than just, oh, well, they make, once they hit a certain amount of money, they just want non-white woman or non-black woman. Like, I don't know if that's true. But again, you know, I'm not a man, so I don't want to speak to it. Just my thoughts on it. So really interesting thoughts. Also, shout out to Raw with the $5 in the super chat. I see black men need to control our own media so we can see each other promoting each other, respecting each other, and producing together as the norm. I agree with that. 100%. I think it would be so helpful if we controlled our image, like literally. So I want to be mindful of the time for both of you. I mentioned that I was going to open up the call lines for a few minutes, but I just want to see where you guys are at. Check in. Because I know we've been going on now for about a little over 2 hours. So just want to see how you guys are doing and check in and see have a few more minutes.
Are we gonna have the trolls coming through here?
No.
You know,
I am on a safe platform. This is a non-threatening platform. So make great. I can make sure that we have no.
This is Black YouTube, so
right.
Yeah.
No. This is Black YouTube.
Which is why I stopped streaming myself, you know. So
Oh, really?
no, I don't waste my time. No. This is the last stream I'm doing all year. I'm doing this one because you asked me like December. I believe.
We started this conversation 2 months back.
Yeah,
and then, like
this
I said,
is one and done. I'll see y'all in 2023. But yeah, I got about 15 minutes. I'm really enjoying myself. Thank you for having me on. So yeah,
this is great. I love hearing your perspective. I love hearing you know, everything that you have to share. Like I said, it's and I don't, you know, I try not to exist in the echo chamber. I've had different people come on and followers be like, why are you bringing him on? Why are you bringing her on? And I'm just like, well, how can we expect to expand and grow if we're not willing to look at things from a different perspective, you know? So, yeah. So like I said, I always like hearing where people are coming from. So you guys, if you want to call in and ask some questions and be respectful, there is a call line. We'll be on for a few more minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to move on. We're almost done with these questions here, y'all. I'm going to move on as we're waiting for people to queue up. Okay, so Oshay, I'll start with you. Is Black Sista Gurl nationalism an immigration issue? Yes.
All of that. The COONING, that's what it is. Because a lot of the talking points in, you know, if I understand Sista Gurl nationalism from what you've explained it tonight, it's embedded in white liberal policies.
Okay.
The same ones that have us where we are today. And it's going to be hard to get away from that because, you know, I'm not so unplugged from the States, but I've been out of the country for 7 years. So I'm kind of looking at the United States from the outside looking in. And it is really hard to maintain your perspective as an African-American living in America because, you know, just being in Africa, you know, it's kind of like the old South. People speak to you. People are very nice. It's more communal. You see people with their kids at the mall, hanging out, having fun. You don't really see that in Black America like we used to maybe in the late 80s in the late 70s and maybe some parts of the early 90s, the last of the Medea era in Black America.
That's the Medea era.
So all of that, it's what it was. Well, that's when the Medea started dying in the 90s. So it is caught up in that. But we got to understand one thing too, as we're living in America and we're amongst them, we got to understand that policies generated from us have led us down a decline. And even in the manosphere, which, like I said, there's some, and we're the you hate Black women group. And even I'm like the kind of guy saying, wait a minute, at a certain partition, we have to do things. And I'm a Black minister guy. I always say on talking about content. We have to bring valuable situations to Black women in our Black community and for kids. And when those integration, doing things for the whites, and I know it, we're in a country that's highly integrated with everybody, but at the situation, the Black dollar stays in the Black community for 6 hours. Okay. If you marry a Black woman and she has a child, she has to go to the white man for the kid to get a summer job. You see, all that is about integration. And the reason a lot of times why a lot of sisters have such a hatred for Black men is because we don't have things for them. You see, for the average guys, we don't have a lot of connections or things that our women can take advantage of, or our kids can take advantage of, or stuff that benefits them. Not even supporting our own HBCUs. We kind of don't have that idea that, okay, it's not that good right now, but we can kind of build it up over time. We don't think like that. We're a microwave generation. So when Black women look at that, the more they integrate, the more they're gonna have a lack of trust for you. So even though you're in the United States, it is still Black men's responsibility and Black women to understand that you have to do things for your people on top of that you do. Because the more you integrate in society, the more that you're going to be on the decline. They're never going to set things up for your kids. They're never going to set things up for your people. Your own HBCUs, we don't even support. And I just told myself, I was talking to my mom today, I used to get to the Negro College Fund. I remember what was the guy that used to, the dude that used to be singing all the time?
Bobby Jones.
No, not Bobby Jones Gospel. I'm talking about, who was the brother that used to always have the telethons back in the 80s for the Negro College Fund? He died. But my mom used to always call in and they would pledge in the 80s back when it was a telethon.
It'd be all night.
Somebody give me the name who the guy was. Was it Lou Ross? No, was it Lou Ross? Was it him? Lou Ross. Okay, yeah. So, but we gotta get back to those things. And unfortunately, if your community is sucks, but it's yours, so that's what I think.
So you're saying that, in your opinion, the reason that, one main reason that Black women don't respect Black men is because Black men haven't built anything.
I won't say that they haven't built anything. That's not true. It's relative. So let me say this real quick, okay? Let me kind of give you an example. In the 1800s, you had a country called Liberia. Now, in comparisons to Liberia, but in an ethno state such as that, well, Black men are the ones developing that particular place to something good. So then the women there are seeing that in comparisons to, let's say, these guys in Nimba or the Kron tribe, these guys are doing a better job than them. But when you're a Black man and you're competing against the guys who enslaved you, that's a little bit different, because Morehouse College started in a Baptist church basement. Now, in comparisons to what it is it the same as Harvard University? Like, that's what I'm talking about. So a lot of times Black men, we built things and done things, but again, Black women can always come back and compare it against, okay, here these are the other guys are doing, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, the less that Black women have to integrate, the better it is. And this is the reason why Black men have to come in and try to do things in economies. I see guys all the time when I come in from Qatar Airways, you come into Uganda, you come into Rwanda. Who do you see? You see these Chinese guys coming over here to Africa to get opportunities to take care of their women. You see the Lebanese doing to take care of. I never see no African American guys coming in talking about, It's 15 of us. We setting up in Africa. We about to make a big honey processing farm because we want to expand our reach to help our community in East Baltimore. You don't see that. And it's hard to keep that kind of respect for a group of men who don't think like that. A lot of Black men got to get out and conquer and go out and make these other opportunities for the communities that you serve to do things for your people. And that's just the reality. So that, that's why the Chinese Americans, they don't have to integrate as much, because look at where their guys are at. Look at what they're doing. I'm on the plane with them all the time. So there needs to be a lot more tenacity coming from these African American men in their endeavors in conquering their own economies and their own people, to provide opportunities for their people.
Very, very interesting.
And it was Lou Rawls.
Yeah, Lou Rawls, yeah.
It was Lou Rawls.
Omowale, welcome back.
What up? I dropped the bomb on y'all and I left.
Welcome back.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I had an interview lined up. I'm trying to work as hard as Oshay, man. It's hard. He's hard to keep up with, but
hardest working man in YouTube.
Right.
I got to get my chips.
Also, welcome Dean, and is that Stefan? Thanks for joining in. I wanted to open up the call lines for a few moments. I know Oshay's been offering a different perspective. I know I see some pushback in the comments. I see some people who agree in the comments. So this has been an interesting topic. But Omowale, I'll start with you, then I'll move on to the next. What are your thoughts on what Oshay said, or just in general, if you have anything that you want to touch on?
Yeah, what was the question? Because everything that I just heard, I didn't disagree with anything that Oshay, and perhaps I shouldn't say that because I know that Oshay mutiny on his hands in the manosphere for these last few days. So maybe me that might be used as evidence against him.
Well, the question was, whether or not Black Sista Gurl nationalism was an immigration issue.
What do you mean by an immigration issue? Like, are you saying?
Yeah, meaning are some of the different negative maybe behaviors, mindsets, attitudes, results that we're seeing in the Black community, if it's a result of immigration, or
are you saying that it's something that migrated to the States? Is that the argument?
Yes, if it's a result of immigration, or if it's a result of
immigration. I thought you said integration. Oops.
No, absolutely not. I think it would be. First of all, just to be clear, like I'm not a proponent of this concept of Sista Gurl. Now, I've never even heard of it before you came with the title, so I don't know who created it. But as a Black nationalist, I just want to say I still want people to take me serious. You know what I mean? So I don't really know what that is. But no, in terms of like the bad behaviors and things that we see, definitely not. You can't make an argument that these things have been brought to the United States by other, Black populations who've migrated here. That's silliness. I think that the challenge that we have, Black people in the United States suffer from culturally transmitted infections, and that's due to overexposure to Western education and Western culture. So a lot of the ways that we have are in large part due to the systems and communities that have been constructed to socialize us. So, but yeah, these are not things that are migrated. But one thing that I know for sure is that as Western culture is exported to these other places, you start to see a lot of these maladaptive traits show up in other populations. So you can go on the continent and see some, interesting behavior, or even in the Caribbean, you can see some interesting behavior, as a result of people trying to mock or mimic, certain cultural traits from the West.
Okay, interesting. So, what is it? It is Dean. What are your thoughts on this question, or just what we've been talking about in general?
Hi, Sade. Hi, Courtney. Hi, panel.
Hello.
So,
what up, Dean?
Hey, how's it going, Omowale? How's it going, brother? So in general, this is why I really love and rock with Oshay Duke Jackson. He brings a level head in these conversations, and I wish he did lives more. Like I remember the Hall of Game, that was very beneficial to brothers. Even though it didn't get a lot of views, right? We all
Well,
YouTube.
Negroes.
Yeah. And the only disagreement I ever had with you, O'Shea, were your views on conservatism in America. The whole Trump thing and Brandon Tate.
Right.
And, you basically got me off out of your page, because we had strong disagreements. But in general, I think everything that you said is what the manosphere, what needs to be said a lot more in the manosphere, I guess. And the manosphere is diverse, so it shouldn't all be one way, right? So I'm not going to be that guy. But I love that message, man. I really, really do. So I'm glad that you said that, because it's better to take the bull by the horns and be more proactive in where you're trying to go instead of reactive and saying, this is the reason why I'm not where I'm at. And obviously, you should have context with everything. But I love that message. Now, I fully understand that the Black male image is under attack. Maybe you might feel somewhat different about that. But, there are these Black Sista Gurl Nationalists out here who are actively trying to discredit the Black male image. And when you have someone like Crystal and Karazin meeting with senators, and we don't have that same counterpart where we have, people in our space meeting with politicians, that says a lot. So I'm being loquacious and long-winded, I'm doing my Eddie, but I appreciate what you said, Jay.
Eddie. Okay, thank you, brother.
All right. So Stephen, educated. I can't see the full name. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that question, or just what's been said so far?
You're muted, my brother. You're muted.
I still can't hear you.
O'Shea, is he in Uganda with you?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, you know what? I have a few others. So while we're
Am I still muted? Am I still muted? Or can you
I'll
guys
drop off to make
Okay.
space.
Okay, I think we can. Yeah. See if we can hear you.
Is my mic working or no?
Yes, sir. We hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Everything you guys recently said, I pretty much agree with. My rebuttal was to something that he said earlier, O'Shea, when he was saying that and I'm paraphrasing. I'm hearing an echo. I hope it's not me. But when he was talking about like Black guys like need to bring not all obviously, but when he was talking to the sector of Black men who need to basically bring more to the table in terms of their economic value, or even like when he was touching on their connections or social network, or basically like even if it's not directly financial, basically they need to bring more tangible I guess avenues of value, like however you want to phrase it. The thing I would say though is that when I super chatted earlier and I was saying that even like Chads and Tyrones, in my experience, even those guys that kind of have the benefit of being 6 foot or taller, or having a certain look, having a certain energy, having certain success with women, even before their 20s, so they kind of had a leg up on other men who at the same age maybe excelled in the academic realm or the economic realm. And obviously there's quote unquote educated Tyrones who are like the unicorn, who they may just have the apex of both. But obviously we're dealing with the 80% of men in the middle. We're not talking about the unicorns right now. I think I agree with O'Shea in his intent. Like, we should stress for the average men to like raise their bar. So like, even if you're making 40,000-50,000 and you're quote unquote lower middle class, like I do think there's an importance in striving to make more. So like you're not just stagnant making that same 40 or 50K for 10 years or whatever. Like, even if it's not just like, however you increase that value is up to you. I mean, you could get into real estate, you could be like an investment guru. Obviously there's all types of different ventures you can get into. But the thing I would bring up so I guess not a total disagreement, but the thing I would bring up though is that I think out of that, the guys that are quote unquote educated lames, and I'm talking about guys who already excel. So guys who basically, I'm speaking for right now, not myself, but for the guys who would say to Oshay, hey, I'm a black guy who doesn't have that much success with women, but I already overachieve or exceed this barrier to entry. Like for instance, I've noticed a lot of these red pill guys, these dating coaches and stuff, even if they're not red pill, a lot of these dating coaches, they mention a lot of the guys that call in for consultations and advice, they're already making over 6 figures. So even if we're not talking about super high value guys, this may be like, I think there's like a block of guys making between like 60K and maybe, 180, 200K or whatever you want to call it. Like there's a block of guys in that tax bracket or not, it's not all one, but that range of tax brackets. So they're above guys like me who have to, like guys like me who are making like, 65K. So we're kind of like, whatever, we're good as long as we hit the attraction threshold. But these guys who make 80K, 120K, they're software engineers. They might be a senior project manager. They might be a head of IT, an HR executive, like all these different, positions that give these guys economic power and obviously a social network. They're quote unquote LinkedIn level, right? They're not making 500K, but they're obviously LinkedIn level. They're my boss. Like these guys are maybe a level or two above me in my company. So we're not that far away, but like they may look at me and say, hey, this guy that's making 65K, he has more success with 25 to 30-year-old black women than me. So they might look at me like an educated pookie. So I think what Oshay said, I agree with the intent, but I think we need to kind of speak to the guys that are already hitting that one factor. And I do, my theory on why that is because obviously hypergamy, and I'm going to wrap it up because I know I'm long-winded. I know I'm on my Edward Anderson stuff. I'm a black pill Tyrone. I'm sorry, but
it's okay.
Obviously, hypergamy is timeless, right? And it might translate slightly differently across cultures, but in general, it's a timeless thing. Obviously, if you're a woman and you have options, you're going to choose the best one. Even to some extent, guys practice it if they have the option to. So maybe on the guy side, maybe only the top 30% of guys are hypergamous, and then the other guys below that just do what they can. So, but with Black American women, I think hypergamy, it's inflated. So the barrier of entry that you have to have in terms of value on top of already meeting the attraction threshold too, it's inflated. So like there are women that like the women that I'm talking about, the barbs as I call them, their barrier to entry to talk to them is so inflated that the guys that make more money than me, they don't even meet it, and they're already exceeding it. You see what I'm saying? But like a guy like me, luckily, I have the options. I don't have to resort to those women anyway because there are plenty of women.
Okay. Let me ask you. Were you asking the question as far as with Black women and hypergamy, and you're seeing it where you make a certain type of amount, but still might be having problems with women?
Yeah,
because I think Oshay touched on that. He said, tell me if I'm wrong. Oshay.
Oh yeah, let me
being charismatic.
Yeah, I didn't get across the point that well. Let me rephrase it a little bit. I want to clarify it a little bit.
I do want to give in the interest of time, I appreciate you sharing your perspective. I do want to give is that Uncle Locke. I know you wanted to share your perspective. I will say just real quickly, just throwing this out there. I guess my question or my thought behind this point is I've talked about this previously, where the OECD ranked the U.S. last in terms of economic mobility, which is the ability for a person to move from class to class. So I wonder with the idea of like working harder or doing the best you can, which I think everybody should do. Basically, what they were saying is like even with that, there's there's going to be the haves, there's going to be the have-nots. There's going to be some who are really, really successful, some who are moderately successful, partially because of the way the system is set up. And, you know, I'm just wondering, you know, how to navigate that, or how to navigate where those guys who the best that they can do maybe is make, whether it's, you know, middle income, or, you know, I think about that because I don't know if there's ever going to be a time where we can assume that majority of Black men are going to be financially successful or six figures or more, just because it's not set up to do so. But I mean, you know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I just was, you know, thinking about that as I was.
Well, that's the black pill. That's the black pill, in my opinion. That, you know, for the guys in the
How
middle.
y'all doing?
Oh, sorry.
What's going on, Uncle Loke?
How you doing, man? I mean, I would like to say that even though you did make the title up, those who might fit that criteria, I mean, they eliminate themselves from being considered Black. You know, I make a distinction between being Black and being a Negro, based on the historical context. Their anti-Black behavior, you know, I believe they should be ignored and shunned, you know, on a cultural basis, because they don't serve nothing but destruction. Not ignore them in the sense of we don't get some game from them and study their tactics, so we can understand what type of social engineering they partaking in. But we really need to get to know what they're doing, so we can be, you know, build a defense and build, you know what I mean, something so we can attack it. You know, unfortunately, we're going to have to know how to, like, I consider Black culture as a culture, not a race, because we don't compete. You know what I mean? The whole premise of race is competition. You know what I'm saying? That's what racism was founded on. You know what I mean? You know, it was founded on them exploiting, you know what I'm saying, our cultural fruit. So if we don't compete, you know what I'm saying, in order for us to get out of this baby mama situation, I'm a product of that, you know. So it is what it is. But, you know, we need to come together and build our own institutions. So, like, even though marriage might not be possible for somebody right now, we need to have unions so we can build institutions, so 10 years down the line we can make wives, because the caliber of females that exist on a broader late basis ain't don't fit that caliber. You know what I'm saying? They too big. Like if you're familiar with Black history or Black culture, you know this mammy stuff is not new. You know what I'm saying? This mammy culture is not new. They call them divestors today, but this mammy culture is not new. You dig what I'm saying? You know, I believe it's the colonial, it was the 1710 mandatory manumission. You know, I mean, obviously that law is still being followed to this day, because we have these Negroes in our community that still behave like they want some butter biscuits and some crumbs. So obviously, you know what I'm saying, the best thing we could do is study them and be combative, because they got a power structure behind them that's supporting this narrative. And unfortunately, I mean, I'm not no baby boomer, so I'm not responsible for what's here now. But like, we gotta do something so we can, you know, combat this. You know what I'm saying? Teach the youth, you know what I'm saying, how to be, you know what I mean, so we can teach the youth and have our own institutions. Because like I say, you know, the he who has the gold rules, and we ain't got no motherfucking gold. Like, right. I mean, this cause.
So, yeah. So, do you guys have any thoughts, or Oshay, Omowale, Courtney?
I didn't hear a question yet, so I'm trying to follow the discussion here.
Yeah. So.
Well, I appreciate. I want to move on to the next. I appreciate you, Uncle Locke, for calling in, and also I appreciate you, Stefan, Educated, for calling in.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have a good one. So it looks like I had a few more callers in the name.
Yo,
and then
Courtney, I've been wanting to say this
But,
all night. You
What?
you look like Craig baby mama off the first Friday.
Put that bitch in the car.
Dude, she ain't nothing but a hoochie mama.
Well, I know like I had a few callers and they dropped off, but I appreciate you guys all, for coming on and sharing your perspective. I wanted to give another few in there who are anxious to call in and rebuttal and ask or whatever, so I wanted to give that opportunity. You guys have all been, great and so patient. So I just, again, I want to appreciate you and give you all a hand clap. Hand clap to all of you panelers. So before I, wrap things up, do you guys, are there any final thoughts, anything that you would like to leave with the audience? Courtney, Michelle, I will start with you.
Oh. Well, first I want to thank you so much for having this panel. I think it was super dope. I loved everyone's opinion. I really think that it was very thought-provoking. So I appreciate it. And I think these conversations that need to be had, we have the Black manosphere that talk about men problems, but we also have to talk about community problems, and we can't fix community issues if we don't join together as a community. So these particular issues that we're talking about is community-based, which needs everyone's input. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for having me.
So much. Also, and you know what? This actually, I did have one more question I wanted to add, and I think this you can do this and maybe wrap things up. But Oshay, I will go with you. What are common and practical ways Black women and men can work together instead of feeding into this toxic gender war dynamic?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, I think you got we got to be like politics, because you got some people on the left and on the right, and sometimes you can't reach those people. But I think is who you can reach in the middle. Number one, who's interested in having a conversation with you. Like at the very, I think a lot of times we kind of overcomplicate these things. But if you're a Black woman, because that if you're interested in dealing with Black men or vice versa, okay. So we know that these people are interested, that they want to talk. And I think that it is really about wanting to compete for one another. Mm-hmm. I think at the very basics of what we're talking about, that's in business, that's in friendships, that's in everything. If I'm a Black man and I want an African-American woman, I need to compete for her as much as I would do anybody else. If I want to work with the guys in my community, I got to have that same respect for them. And I think that equally, the people who want to do that or feel that they need to do that are the people that you can only work with and talk to. Now, if you have those people who feel like they can't compete or that they don't need to compete, then there's only two other options as far as the men. Because a lot of stuff men got to catalyze. It is, what value are those guys bringing? And somehow, because everybody not going to like you anyway, but what are you bringing to the table? What are you doing as a group working? A lot of that situation too, I think, is not even about Black men and Black women. It's about Black men and Black men. Because once you get Black men and Black men kind of doing things, then the women kind of solve themselves as a result. You can't have Black men and Black women having a conversation when you got a lot of disunity between Black men. That is the reality. So a lot of Black men working together, a lot of situations dealing with Black men can do that. But then also wanting to actively compete for each other and give each other the best. Those are people you can talk to. You cannot talk to people on the fence. If they're undecided, okay, go sit over there. Right? Mm-hmm. If you need to be, okay, go sit over there. And I think that we need to really unify that until, like, okay, if I want to be with a Black woman, I want to be in the Black community, I want to give my best effort every day. And I want to compete for somebody. And then from there, you can go to have a conversation. But I think going in and talking about ultimatums, you need to do this or that, that kind of talk, it doesn't work. I think that the people that are coming in want to actively listen. We want to do this for our community. We want our women to live this sort of lifestyle. And the women that are like that, these women we want in our group. And you start from there. And then you go back and you look at what did the ancestors dictate and say that our community should be run. You go back and you look at your Claude Andersons, you look at your Dr. Amos Wilsons, you look at the people that have come before you, and to see how these communities run. How did the old successful communities of old, it's not reinventing the wheel. What did these men do in those times of the Black Wall Street? And how did these men interact with one another? How did they see themselves? As enemies or as Black men that are brothers? So that's the attitude that we got to have. And then once you can have that attitude, it solves itself.
Very, very interesting. No, I think you make some great points as far as working with people who actually want to be worked with, right? Working with people who want to compete, because at the end of the day, I mean, I think even Marcus Garvey had said this, where he was like, he wasn't trying to, I can't think of the exact quote, but it's like essentially he wasn't trying to bring everybody over there. It's like only those who wanted to compete, only those who were productive. It's like if you're not productive in America, you ain't gonna be productive in Africa, you ain't gonna be productive in the Caribbean, because it's a mindset at that point. So
I feel like Oshay was going to address somebody in the chat. Like I wanted to hear that.
No.
Oh, were you?
It's this dude that said this, right? He makes a good point. Not this guy, Math Magic, but Stefan. So even if a bunch of men who make 100, 200K and have connections, if they don't meet that attraction threshold, as well as most likely their results will only increase as much. I mean, like, let me just say this. Only dude that is uglier than me is the dude that Courtney was dating last night. Okay? I'm not no beauty queen. I just don't. Everything is about, number one, who you are. Number two, what is your proximity? Like if you live in Boise, Idaho, as a Black man, you make 200K. It's different if you live in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's true.
You make 200K. So it's about your proximity. And it's also about, again, actively positioning yourself. A lot of these guys leave that out. Where are you positioning to be? Because Black women don't just like the same type of, there are Black women who like different, it's variation of what Black women tastes are. Some Black women want a big Black dude with a big nose like and they can be beautiful all outside. It's about what your active positioning is. Many Black men fail to realize that. It's all about where you are and where you put yourself out to amongst what you get. You are who you hang around. So we could talk about these differences of what attraction is. Some women are going to like what you look like or not like you at all. But there are a lot of women who are going to like you if it depends on what your position is. But if you don't give yourself opportunity to do that, you'll never know. Black men and Black women got to start positioning themselves to be where they want to be and stop making so many excuses. And if you can't be there, create it. Like create these little mixers, create these beauty pageants. What's stopping you from creating those things? You can create what you want to have. That's the beautiful thing about being a man. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I second that.
So yeah, I was going to ask, Omowale, and I know you've kind of spoken to this in some of your own lives, but any thoughts on how men and women can work together, Black men and women work together, kind of fight against this gender war narrative that we start to see being fostered online?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'm noticing is that Black people are pretty much going to use any technology we have at our disposal for infighting and for conflict. So I don't care if it's Twitter Spaces or YouTube Lives or Clubhouse. When you get us together, the unhealed trauma among us is going to result in this type of warring and conflict that you see. But in terms of working together outside of like this toxic gender war paradigm, I'm old school, so I believe that organizations and institutions naturally pair us together, right? If we're all a part of an organization that is working towards achieving certain aims and objectives for the community, then the work is going to put us together, right? I feel like the Black community as a collective is on fire right now. So the organizations represent our fire departments. So you can either join a fire department, or you can fan the flames, or you can stand on the side and watch the fire and say, let that shit burn, or You know, you can critique the people who are putting out the fire, like, hey, y'all throwing the water wrong. Like, I think that's what we have right now. You have the people in the community, both men and women, who are actively trying to put out the fires. And then you have people who are like, man, I'm trying to strike a match. I'm trying to fan the flames. Like, I want it all to burn down. So I guess you have to pick your audience. Like, what do you desire to see? Like somebody like me, I actually love the Black community. I value the Black community. I don't stigmatize or demonize any segment of the Black community, with the exception of traitors. I don't allow for treachery in any way, shape, or form, and that is both male traitors and female traitors. But anybody else, you're never going to hear me calling Black people Tyrones and calling Black women Keishas. I'm not about to be calling dudes. I'm not doing none of that. So I love the Black community. So I'm open to working with anybody, male or female, who wants to work together to fix the problems that we have.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. I think you guys all make a great point about, at the end of the day, you got to choose wisely. And this just goes not only for building the Black community, just period in your life. Anytime you want to do productive or you want to move forward and have better outcomes in your life, you have to be mindful of who you're surrounding yourself around. That's why, like, you know, they say single woman keeps, single woman single. Like if you want to be married, like, you got to surround yourself around women who are married or who are marriage minded, right? If you're around women who are upset or bitter or angry or whatever, that it's like, that's going to stunt your ability to get in a healthy relationship. So I think just that principle you can apply in so many different areas of your life, of making sure that you are choosing wisely and being around people who are like-minded. So you make some really, really great points. Well, again, I appreciate you guys for being on here. I wanted to throw in that question in there, like final thoughts. Again, Courtney, thank you for being here. Oshay, Omowale, if you also have any final thoughts that you would like to share before wrap things up, you feel free to do so.
Yeah, I mean, just I'm over at Omowale Africa YouTube channel. Pull up, subscribe. I have live streams every Sunday at 8 o'clock. I have an interview series called Going Off Topic. Oshay was actually the first person we interviewed for that series. We've also interviewed Courtney Michelle, but that airs every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can always pull up and check those out.
Awesome. Yes, I have all of their social media information in the description box. So be sure to go check them out, like, subscribe, and support. And thanks for coming back on, Omowale.
yeah, I'm sorry. Like I be having like 4 interviews booked a week. Like, so these joints I be working. Oshay,
that just means
I'm trying to keep up, bro. I'm trying to keep up.
All good. Oshay, how about you? Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with people? You dropped a lot of interesting perspective today. So I really appreciate you coming on and being with us.
I really thank you for reaching out to me. Usually I think I'm Hollywood as a YouTuber. So when you send me an email, I was like, who the hell is this? But I stayed up. It's 4 o'clock in the morning here in Kampala. So
oh wow.
I wanted to honor my commitment. I was without power for like 10 hours today, so I wanted to honor my commitment. Thank you for having me. I think that a lot of times we get a bad rap, especially some of the manosphere guys, that that we can't come to the conversation and be and interact with women. But I do think it was love. I had a good time here. You have a really professional stream and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again for having me. I'm really, really glad to be here, and it was really fun. I'll drink some no-dos and take some no-dos of coffee and come back and do this some other time.
Yeah, this is awesome. You're welcome back anytime. All of you guys are welcome back anytime. It's always a pleasure to, I enjoy watching all your content, and so it's cool to come on and have these kinds of discussions. And I think they're also productive. Like I said, we can come over and hash out some of these different things that can really tend to bring division. So again, thank you all of you guys. This has been great. Like I said, guys, go check them out if you haven't already. Subscribe, watch their content, show them some love, some support. And you guys have a great night, evening, early morning to you. This was all awesome, great stuff.
All right, thank you.
Bye. That was fun.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Courtney.
All right, guys.
Oh, well, I'm gonna hit you up, Courtney. I gotta press you out. a few things.
You already done flew me out.
You need to hit my WhatsApp. We're gonna talk about these sandal stealings you doing in Nashville. I saw you on the news last night. So,
I was about to pull up my sandal, but I want y'all to go. Put my sandal back on.
Because Putin coming to get you. Take you over to Ukraine.
Crazy.
Put you in the Bolshevik Revolution. All right, hit me up. All right, well, good to see you guys.
All right, y'all. Peace.
All right. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Take care. So, that was a long but fun and productive conversation. Like I said, I always love to have people come on and, offer their perspective, whether I agree or disagree. I think sometimes when we hear things from different points of view, it can really challenge us and maybe open up our understanding to other options we didn't consider. So, again, I appreciate all of you guys who joined me today, joined us tonight. Again, if you have not already, be sure to check out all of the information. I've linked the links to their YouTube pages and their social media profile pages in the description box. So check it out. Also like this if you haven't already before leaving the stream, and definitely stay tuned for other lives and interviews I have coming up. This was great. Thanks for the support, and we'll talk later. Bye.